Call this meeting of the Atwater City Council, October 14th, 2019 to order. Roll call, please.
Ambrose?
Here.
Kale?
Here.
Raymond is absent. Vieira?
Here.
Creighton?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer by Pastor Rich Miller. Chief, will you lead us?
I will. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given to us. Thank you for how that you have blessed our community. Father, we just pray for your hand to continue to be upon our city, and we pray for your hand to be upon this meeting, upon all of our officials. We ask that you give them wisdom from on high. Father, we pray that this will be a productive time. And Father, we pray that through it all, we'd be able to be a lighthouse here in the Central Valley to the communities around us and to those even in our state capital. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Amen.
Mayor and City Attorney report out of closed session. City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor. The council considered a few items under closed session. No reportable action was taken.
Okay. Subsequent need items.
Mayor, there are no subsequent need items.
Okay. Approval of agenda as posted or amended. I'd like to amend the agenda by moving item 11 to before number 1. Reason for that is staff's on call for the water system and is dressed nice, probably needs to go home change, getting his on-call clothes. So motion for changing the agenda. Not there yet.
So motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ceremonial matters. Eduardo Velasquez. Okay. Okay. So Eduardo turned 100 years old. What was his birth date? Does anybody know?
It was
the
on
exact-
Saturday. It was like it was
Saturday.
on
He turned 100 years old, one of our citizens. So, Eduardo, we have a certificate here for you from the entire city council on behalf of the city of Atwater to help you celebrate your 100 years strong and another 100 to go. So, Eduardo lived in the same home here in Atwater for 66 years. He's been married for over 69 years, has 6 children, 11 grandchildren, 21 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. He's also a local almond farmer and started his career here in Atwater with the railroad. So 100 years ago, he was born, and then shortly after that, he started with the railroad. So what a great history and what a great person, and happy birthday, Eduardo. Council, you want to say anything to Eduardo out there?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wonderful. Thank you. Consent calendar? What?
Item
Oh,
11.
yes. I changed it. Well, I was going to do that after the consent. Right before, never mind. I'm going to do that next because that is before number 1. So, 11. Reports and presentations from staff. Verbal update regarding 123 TCP water treatment. Justin, you don't mind coming up?
Okay, good evening, Mayor, City Council. So currently, as you guys know, we have water treatment for TCP at one well site. Now, once this treated water leaves the well site, it actually goes to the whole system, the whole city of Atwater. That water gets blended in with the rest of the wells, and it lowers the concentration of TCP throughout the whole city. Currently, We are in the process of design and engineering for a whole nother treatment site at a new well location. And that will be doing the same thing as what this current well site does. Other than that, there's not too much more
Okay.
updates on it.
At this time, I'll open up for public comment. Any members of the public that come forward and ask questions about this?
Mary Ann Amarant, Atwater, California. I'm frustrated because apparently I'm the only one that's concerned about our water. I would like for someone to explain to me, perhaps you, if there's any way of us testing individual wells and isolating the situation so we know where it's actually coming from. My concern is that it's an average, and our average is still .061, and it's supposed to be .005, and I know I keep on saying that, but I'm just getting frustrated. And I've been told things as far as 18 months, and I don't feel that's an acceptable time frame because we could literally produce 2 children in 18 months. I'm probably coming from a different point of view because I've had family go through cancer. I don't think anybody in this room has not experienced cancer, or indirectly or directly. And so I try to live my life to be kind of clean. I don't smoke, I don't drink a lot, I drink bottled water, I don't use the microwave. I mean, maybe I'm the opposite extreme, but I feel water is like a basic need. And last meeting I was frustrated because we are more concerned in Atwater about feral cat population than we are about our drinking water. And I feel like the extreme is extreme. I mean, like if we were within .007, 10, so forth, but we're .061, guys, and that's like, wow. I've read a lot of documentation about it. I've had a friend that sat on that jury and listened to 4 months of testimony. I've been told that when you stand in a shower and the water, the steam, also you're inhaling it in your lungs. So I just feel like it's more of an impact than what we realize. I do believe that people in Atwater don't understand how bad it is, but I'm concerned. So with that, apparently maybe I'm only one of the 28,000 people in Atwater that are, but I am concerned.
No, we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public like to come forward?
Yeah. Just a second, I can get.
Justin, can you grab the mic from Chief? On this item?
On the water, yeah.
Okay,
What's being done to clean it?
here you go.
What's being done to clean this water?
We're currently, okay, first, you get 3 minutes to ask a question, and then we'll answer those
All right.
questions.
I want to know what's being cleaned, how it's being cleaned. I want to know how the pipes are going to be cleaned through the city. My granddaughter is sick right now. She don't drink sodas. She only drinks water. We stopped her about 3 months ago of drinking any Atwater water. It's bad garbage. She's drinking strictly bottled water now. She has been to the doctor. They've diagnosed it that it's because of the water. Now, how many people in this town has got this stuff that we've been drinking, and you people just recently have said something about it? I mean, we got to clean every pipe in town. That bacteria is in the pipe. It's not going to work putting filters on the pumps or any in the wells. Every pipe in this town has to be cleaned. The bacteria is in the pipes now. So you guys figure it out, and we'll let you know what happens with my granddaughter. Because right now, I'm looking for an attorney to see what can be done about it. You guys waited and hid this stuff as far as I'm concerned. Now we got people getting sick. I don't know how many other people in town's got this problem. And the doctor has said it's from bad water. And the only place she's ever drank water is right out of the city Atwater pipes. So I'm a little upset at it right now. I'm usually saying words I shouldn't be, go to jail because of him, but I'm just telling you, better figure it out real quick, because if she gets any sicker, I will find an attorney. You guys aren't going to get away with just putting filters on the pump. Oh, we got a new well. Every pipe in this town has to be cleaned. We don't want a Flint, Michigan operation here. Look how long those people had to drink bad water before they knew it, and they got sick. So it's up to you people here. It's not all your guys' fault, because some of you ain't been on this board long enough. But how long has the city known about this problem and has not said nothing? That's my biggest question on this department right now. But I'm going to tell you, I'll keep you posted, Mayor, on my granddaughter. If she gets any sicker, they've taken her out of school now due to her sickness. She's getting stomach pills now because of it. And somebody's going to pay the bill on it. I'm not going to pay it, so somebody's going to pay the bill on it, because the city is responsible for giving us bad water for a long time, And you guys never cut our water rates because everybody's downtown buying bottled water, have you? Nobody has ever cut a water rate. You keep going up with it, but it doesn't ever go down, and we can't drink the water. That's wrong, basically wrong. And if it was me, there wouldn't be a whole lot of people sitting up here if they don't get it straightened out real soon, because you're all going to come up for elections pretty soon again. And believe me, I'll be down carrying a sign not to elect anybody in this room to a public office again till we get this water straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I got to say about it.
Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time regarding this item? We'll close the public comment and bring it back to staff. Justin, you can cover those questions there. They seem pretty simple to answer and
Yeah,
maybe
as-
put some people at ease a little bit.
As far as testing each well, we do that quarterly.
Focus
Um,
up here, though.
What's that?
Address the council.
Okay, yeah, we do that quarterly. You will see the numbers fluctuate on that TCP notice just based on if pumps are running or not running. The TCP concentration will vary based on if a well's not running, that's near a TCP plume or not. But we do monitor the wells as the state dictates us to monitor them.
You not only monitor them, you also do testing, right?
Correct, testing quarterly.
Right.
Well, and then another well we do testing monthly that we have treatment at.
And how many years you've been doing that?
Since I've been testing some well sites since 2012 for a different constitute, but this since 2016.
And how long have you been reporting that to the public?
We've been reporting it to the public since we've had to send out the TCP notification letters.
Okay.
But the results are public if they go online.
They are public.
Correct.
Okay. And then the other gentleman's questions about water being contaminated in the pipes in the system of the city. What type of testing does the city do currently so there is no bacteria in the water lines?
Correct. We do total coliform testing and fecal testing monthly for the well sites and weekly for the areas in town. And we don't get any hits on those. It's all negative, no positive.
And why do you do those tests?
To see if there's bacteriological substances in the water system or in the piping.
To make sure that we provide a clean, potable drinking water to the
Correct.
public. And if we had any violation, we would what?
We'd have to notify the customers.
How does that work?
Well, we'd have to resample, notify the customers, then we'd have to send them letters, do a newspaper announcement, radio announcement saying that the water is not drinkable. They have to do a boil water notice.
Is there a problem in that area?
No.
Okay. Do you guys have a flushing program?
Yes, we do flush. We flush the hydrants. Well, the fire department flushes the hydrants, so we flush the mains at the very end.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Can we get some clarification when the notices, so we test quarterly, so quarterly the notices are sent out, or what are our requirements on the notices and how are the customers
You can
noticed?
ask Justin.
Correct, they're sent out quarterly. So we take the sample at the first quarter of the month. So if it was first quarter, it'd be January, and then we send the notices out February after we get the results.
And how are they just mailed to each individual customer?
Correct.
Okay,
They're also put on the website too.
okay, thank you.
And Justin, you said that with the working on the first pump, the TCP level went down. How much did it go down?
On the first well,
Yeah.
well, the TCP at that well was at 26 parts per trillion. After it leaves the treatment, it's non-detectable. And detectable is
Okay.
less than 7.
Okay.
And moving forward, our intention is to treat all of our wells so that we have the same result from, I think that's our long-term goal, is to be able to treat them all. Is that correct?
Correct, that is the plan that we have submitted to the state.
So to answer that question, Councilwoman Vieira, we did, and you can't have 2 children in 18 months, you're correct, good math. But the reality of engineering and construction, you have to make sure that everything will fit on the well sites. You have to reconfigure piping, you have to go through the government bidding process. It's a lot harder than you could ever fathom about how slow government works and the bureaucracy. That being said, we're going as fast as we absolutely can with our first portion of the settlement. Staff's already been working on it, city manager, city attorney, city engineer, and we're moving as fast as we can to get things in place so that those numbers keep falling. So when you have one well that had a 70 or whatever, 0.70 or 70 parts per trillion, now down to 0, we've already made a big leap, quantum leap forward to start bringing all those numbers down.
Correct, Mayor. And then also is in that TCP notification, the well site that has treatment is not included in that. So it's only the well sites that
Right.
are over the MCL that have no treatment.
Right, so you'll see fewer and fewer as we go on, but I'm going to direct staff to work with you after the meeting, or you guys exchange numbers, and then we're not hiding anything, we're going to keep you guys informed on everything. Marion, we can't, we're already, yeah, he'll talk to you after the meeting. So, anybody else on the council have anything? No? Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Looking for direction, council? All right, well, hold on, let me open up to public comment. Anybody have any comments on the consent calendar from the public? Seeing none at this time, we'll close the public comment portion, bring it back to the council for direction. Cindy Vieira.
Yeah, I'd like to pull number 5 and number 6.
Any other members? Seeing none,
I'll make a motion to approve as amended without number 5
And 6.
or 6. Or 5 or 6.
the motion was to approve amended with 5 and 6 being pulled.
Second.
Motion by Kale, second by Ambrose.
And also for the record, I'm sorry, that Brian walked in at 6:21
Oh,
PM.
yeah, let the record reflect Councilman Brian Raymond is in the house.
At the dais, thank you. Okay, Viera,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Raymond?
Yep.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Creighton,
Yes.
motion passes.
Item 5, declaring Sunridge CAD RMS system a sole source item and a unique cost savings opportunity, and approving a software lease purchase agreement with Sunridge System for the lease purchase of a law enforcement computer-aided dispatch and record management program system. Chief Salvador.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Councilman Vieira, do you have questions for me that I can answer?
I think that this is a lease that we previously looked at, and I thought we had pulled back on. So, and then I didn't know the 113,601 each year, is that something that's already budgeted? Or is this something we're going to need to amend? So I just kind of want to know the background
Sure.
on this, because last I heard we were trying to get out of this, now we're trying to get in it. So just fill
Okay,
us in.
there's a couple of reasons why we're back in front of the council regarding this item. Reason number one is during the budget process, you guys did direct me to look at cost-saving opportunities regarding dispatch, whether it to be consolidation or contracting. And during that presentation, I advised the council that there were 2 avenues to make that happen. Either an avenue that took us towards the county or an avenue that took us to our neighbors towards the north. The 2 products, the Tyler system, we initially went and discussed this with the county. We had several meetings over the last 6 months. Unfortunately, the county doesn't have the manpower or the ability in their IT department to make a project like this work for us. And I received an email to that effect back in August. That turned me from that direction to the current direction that you're here in front of you now. The Sunridge Rims project, that software package is being utilized by the City of Los Banos, the City of Gustine, the City of Livingston, plus UC Merced. The cost savings, again, is we're going to put ourselves on a comparative platform with those agencies for us to be able to have talks about possibly consolidating our dispatch centers with them. It also provides investigative advantages similar to the Tyler product with the county. We do have a lot of crooks from the Los Banos area and the Gustine area and the Livingston area. We had an instance a couple of weeks ago where we had a person, police department shopping. They'd been to Los Banos, they'd been to Gustine, they'd been to Livingston, then they came to us when they didn't get the answer they wanted from those 3 police departments, and it took me over an hour to backtrack his steps. This system, if we'd have been on it, would have taken me 2 minutes to backtrack his steps. I can't comment on the fact that you pulled away from this project before my time. Coin a phrase, that was BC. But I'm intimately familiar with this product. I had it in my former jurisdiction. It is one of the most comprehensive software packages for law enforcement that you can purchase. These software packages, if you approve this one, this will be my 5th. They're very expensive products. They're $1 million systems. This particular one is very reasonably priced. It is catered to being user-friendly. It allows me, as the police chief, and it allows detectives and our supervisory staff instant one-screen knowledge of everything that's going on in the police department at the same time. Statistics will be easier to get than I can currently get them to you. I can make deployment decisions based on those statistics. It is a superior product. In 15 months, we have another issue. In 15 months, all police departments nationwide are going to be required to change the way that they report statistics to the federal government. The old-fashioned summary UCR system is going away. It is being replaced by the National Incident-Based Reporting System. That system takes the current 8 crime classifications that we currently report to FBI and increases it to 52. This is going to be a major training issue for the department over the next 15 months. This particular software package is ready to make that conversion. If this is approved tonight, we will start the process of training our people to write under the new system. And when this deploys, we'll make the transfer over. For every stick, there's a carrot. The carrot for the NIBRS platform is you have to be able to certify within 2% accuracy or you don't get federal grant funds. The user-friendliness of the system is what's going to make this goal possible for us. I've been to 2 classes already. In the last 6 weeks, I've sent our dispatch supervisor and our person that I've tasked with rewriting the report manual to training last month. We're going to bring the trainers here. We're going to train every single one of our people. This is a comprehensive law enforcement software package that will meet the needs of the department well in the foreseeable future. I believe it's a prudent use of the resources. Unfortunately, the pricing that you have here is higher than the last time you looked at this product. And the reason why it's higher is when you looked at the product 2 years ago, you could get a 7-year lease, which drove the price down. That option is no longer available to the department. 5 years is the maximum lease purchase price. This is in our budget as part of one of the goals in the IT strategic plan. I can make the number work. We already have the infrastructure ready to go. You have a grant proposal on the calendar tonight that will buy the server that will make this go. The patrol cars are ready to go. The desktop computers are ready to go. I just need the council to approve this item so I can move the department in a new direction.
I'm going to open up the public comment this time. Any members of the public like to come forward on this item, please come forward. See none, close public comment, bring it back to the dais. Councilman Raymond.
Yeah, Chief, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And it has been talked about, we've talked in private, we've talked up here, about the possibility of joining another agency as far as
Yes.
dispatch services as a cost savings measure. What I'm hearing is we're gonna have to spend over $500,000 to even get to the point to discuss that?
Unfortunately, yes. The reason being is you can't have the discussion regarding consolidation unless you're on similar platforms. This money would be spent no matter which way we went. It's really a function of the fact that the current software package that Atwater PD uses is incompatible with any of our surrounding neighbors. And unfortunately, it is dated. The likelihood of us even being able to make the NIBRS conversion with the current software package is going to be very, very difficult at best and may cost us more money. So I don't like it any more than you do, but I'm between a rock and a hard place.
So are we. Okay, that's all I have.
I think
Councilwoman
a
Rivera?
couple,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, do I need to push my
No.
button? Before part of the problem that we had was purchasing this, our computers would not run it. Was that correct? But that-
I don't know a lot of the backstory behind why you guys pulled out and when you pulled out. What I'm telling you is that may have been the case then. That is no longer the case now. We completed the full upgrade of the department within the last 6 weeks. So I can deploy this software tomorrow if I could get my hands on it.
Go ahead, Cindy.
And then the annual cost is the $113,601.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is already in our budget. So
Yes.
we're not asking for anything else. It's
No,
just
I'm not
in
asking.
there. And
Yeah, I'm gonna play some games with the budget, of course, but next year it'll be fully budgeted again, and it'll be fully budgeted until the lease purchase is out. Once the lease purchase component is out, this amount will decrease by about 60%. This lease payment is leasing the software plus all the maintenance that goes with it, all the updates that goes with it. We won't have to do anything after that. The IT support from the company is exemplary. So it shouldn't have much of a burden on us.
Are we still paying for the system we currently use?
Yes, we are.
Do you know what that yearly payment is?
That yearly payment's approximately $25,000. If this passes, we will pay the last bill for this fiscal year, and I will notify the company that we will be changing software packages.
Okay, how long would it take to get something like this
My experience, Councilman Raymond, from the time we get the contract signed up, we get on their schedule, we're looking at 6 months.
Okay.
So I would
pay for a year of this and then go right into the new system. So
I would expect a deployment date sometime in late May, maybe early June of 2020.
Okay.
I have one more question. I'm so sorry.
go ahead. Please go
Do we
ahead.
start paying for it when it's deployed, or do we start paying for it now? I think
We
what
start
Councilmember
paying for
Raymond-
it once it's deployed and we accept it. So.
It has to be deployed and working.
It has to be deployed, working, accepted, and then we pay our first lease payment. So depending on the deployment schedule, of course, this may not even be a fiscal year 20 payment. It may be as part of your budget next year as the first payment. Because usually these contracts have a 30 to 60 day acceptance period that are in these contracts. And that gives us time to work out the kinks, make sure everything's working properly, make sure our communications piece works. My experience, the issue that we end up having with a software deployment like this is making sure that the communication between the dispatch center and the cars is consistent and works properly. It's usually never the server piece, it's usually never the desktop piece. It's always that car link. And then we've got some work to do with the state of California too. Our CLETs, when we run people for warrants and we run people for cars for their registrations, currently that takes two pieces of software to make this work. What I hope to do is to make it one piece of software for it to work. So our guys in the cars, one click, runs, gets a return. These returns automatically go into the system and they're usable on the spot. You won't hear anymore, hey, can you please send me the 28, or the registration return to my MDT so I can copy it to my report. This system, that won't happen again. It'll be boom, run it, get the return, straight in the report. It's going to be an efficiency upgrade that our people haven't seen. And we can go paperless with it.
Is that all, Cindy? You have any more?
Staff does recommend approval.
So, Chief, I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
The radios that officers carry,
Yes, sir.
this has nothing to do with that?
That has nothing to do with that, sir.
Where are we at with those radios? When do we upgrade those?
They're in progress right now. I have a purchase order sitting on my desk to execute the lease agreement, and I hope to have radios by Thanksgiving.
Okay. And the next thing is trying to keep this in simplistic terms, because you guys, the three of you know this law enforcement side of things. I don't. I do know it matters that we have the right tools, and you're bringing the tools. They're asking some good questions. So with this new software that dispatch would have, the whole intention of this is so the patrolmen in the street, the guy that are protecting us, and the gals that are protecting us on the street, they have the tools they need to protect them and do a better job.
Yes.
And then with this, you said the record keeping would be much better. So
Yes.
the biggest question I get asked all the time is, when are we going to start issuing concealed carry permits through the police department? This would be able to track something like that?
Yes, it would.
So we would be able to start maybe aggressively looking at that?
I used this system in my former jurisdiction for lots of things. We were able to track dance permits. We'll be able to track bicycle permits. We'll be able to track, if the council's so inclined, cannabis permits with it. We could track CUPs with it. There is a lot of things, there's a lot of power to the system and configuration that would allow us to do that. One of the things I noticed when you talk about CCWs, there's no consistent numbering system here in the city of Atwater for CCWs. This system will allow us to do that by number.
So you'd have a firm footing on who has permits, where they're at, whether they're active or not active, instead of the old card file system.
Yes, and that information would be available to the officer on the street in real time. Right now, if an officer ran, you Councilman Raymond, and you had a CCW from us, on the return, that CCW would come up on the return, and he could click it and bring the whole file up. He could see everything. We used it to really good effect because because we were tracking every employee in the cannabis industry, right? So we were tracking everybody. And it allowed an officer on the site in his car to run people, bring them up, do photo lineups in the car.
Which currently, the other jurisdictions are doing that
Yes.
with that system?
They can do all that stuff.
So the jurisdictions you're speaking about, UC Merced, Livingston, and the others, so we'd be on par with them.
And as we continue down that road, we can spread this web out even further. This particular software product is operated by 167 agencies in California, all the UCs, and 90% of the CSUs.
Great.
So with the proper agreements long-term, we can start webbing these systems together and really give our officers a very, very powerful tool.
Okay. I'll take council's direction on this.
You need a motion, you want to do number 6 first, or we do it individually?
Individually.
Well, I would make a motion to approve staff's recommendation on item 5.
Second.
Motion by Viera, second by Raymond.
Raymond?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Item number 6, approving memorandum of understanding between the Fresno County Sheriff's Office and the Atwater Police Department regarding California high-intensity drug trafficking area. Chief Salvador.
Okay, so this is a standard MOU. The Central Valley HIDA is a federal task force that is based out of Fresno. It covers basically the area from the top of Merced County all the way to the top of the Grapevine. And for drug trafficking, meth, cocaine, heroin. This is one of the meth capitals of the world, the Central Valley of California. And the Department of Drug Enforcement has these task forces. There's 23 of them nationwide. Central Valley is one of them. And to participate in getting the funding from the federal government, the HIDAs all have MOUs with their law enforcement agencies. And if we were to send Atwater police officers to assist with a HIDA task force operation, we could then put in to get reimbursed from the HIDA for the time and effort and equipment for our police officers. Very similar to the strike team model for the fire department. But they do require an MOU. And seeing that I'm a new chief, Fresno County Sheriff's Office, who is the administrative hub for the HIDA, sent me an MOU for us to sign so we could participate. And if we may even get asset forfeiture money out of this, that without this MOU, we wouldn't have access to. So staff is recommending approval to allow the city manager to sign the MOU with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office so we can participate in HIDA activities.
I'm going to open up to public comment at this time. Any members of the public like to come forward to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the dais. Raymond.
Motion to approve the item as presented.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Kale.
Kale?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chief. Public hearings, 2019 Edward, okay, wait. I skipped presentation? Nope.
Number 9.
Oh, why is it on the consent? Mine shows consent still, so,
Okay.
same thing. Presentations. Presentation by FM3 regarding polling results and discussion and possible action regarding placement of a public safety use tax ballot measure on the March 3rd, 2020 presidential primary election ballot. Who do we have here tonight? Kurt, you want to come up, please, from FM3? And this is the polling regarding the public safety tax. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us come and conduct this research for you. Are there any preliminary comments, or do you want me to jump into the results?
Let's have the city manager touch on what we're doing here. So kind of give like why we're doing what we're doing.
So the public safety and use tax measure will go away in 2023. So council or staff at council's direction is looking at, we went to a polling services to see whether or not there is a consensus in the community to either one, extend the ballot or, the measure, or continue it. And so FM3 was hired as a polling services to go out and speak with English and Spanish speakers. They did telephone interviews as well as online computer ballot questions. And their results are tonight we're going to hopefully give you enough information to give staff direction regarding the possibility of placing a public safety and use tax ballot measure on the March 2020 presidential primary election.
Okay, excellent. Take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Kurt Balow from FM3 Research. Happy to be here to present results of this research we conducted for you tonight. Technology worked. All right. My apologies. I'll have to look a little bit left and right here. So a few notes that your city manager just touched on here. We conducted a survey. We just wrapped it up in September. 300 interviews, roughly half online, half on the phone. The people we interviewed were drawn from the voter file, and based upon their past voting histories, we modeled them as likely to vote in next November's election, so we can look at both the March and November turnout here. And we did offer the interviews in both Spanish and English. So a couple things to note when you're looking at these results here. For the full sample, so anything for the full 300 interviews, we get a margin of error of 5.7%, margin of sampling error. So we'll round that up to 6%. In a few places, we do a technique called split sampling, where half the respondents heard one version of a question and half heard another. In those cases, given we conducted only 150 interviews in each of those split samples, it's about an 8% margin of error. So somewhat big, but something to keep in mind when you're looking at these results. And for those of you who are sticklers about everything adding up to 100%, because of rounding, sometimes they don't. As I tell my kids, sometimes 1.4 actually equals 3. So, a couple of things about how we set up the survey. The primary focus, as the city manager noted here, was focusing on the Measure H. So, the primary thrust of the survey and the focus of it was on that. Early in the survey, we presented hypothetical 75-word ballot language to response to the survey for a straight renewal measure of Measure H at the half-cent rate, and then another half got one, which is a little bit different, which involved an increase to 1 cent. And the ballot language was a little bit different because the renewal is simply maintaining what you have, and if you went to the increase option, then there's other things you'd be able to do. And I'll let staff and the police chief and the fire chief speak to that if those questions come up about what those things would be. And at the end of the survey, after we went through perceptions of the city, reactions to the potential ballot measure, some reactions to ways the dollars could be spent, some sensitivity testing about how a measure might react to pro and con arguments, we came back at the end of the survey and also asked about a general purpose sales tax measure as a sort of fallback, just because the vote thresholds are dramatically different for our special purpose measure, which is at 2/3, versus a general purpose measure, which is at 50%, just to give you as a council a variety of options to consider. So that's the basic structure. A lot of me talking. Let's get into some of the actual numbers. So the first section of the results I want to go through here are general perceptions of the city, life here, and some of the services, particularly those in public safety arena, because that's the thrust of Measure H. First up, the old Gallup question, right direction, wrong track. We've got a plurality who feel optimistic more. 39% feel like the city's headed in the right direction, but not too far behind. That is 30% wrong track. If you're sort of being generous here, it's kind of in thirds, roughly. A third positive, a third a little more pessimistic, and a third sort of fence-sitting. So a little bit mixed, but leaning towards a positive impression about the life here in the city. Gesundheit. And when it comes to city government, we presented also different aspects of city government. Government overall, also police and fire departments, and another, one of the more big departments that people interact with, which is the Parks and Rec Department. And we asked respondents to say, well, do you approve of the job or disapprove of the job these departments are doing? If you picked one of those two categories, we pushed the respondents a little bit. Is that strongly or somewhat approve or disapprove? And so those blue bars are shades of approval, those brown bars are shades of disapproval, and gray is don't know, don't have an opinion. I'm a fence sitter here, and we summarize those on the right-hand side. Like the police chief can cover his ears. The fire department's at the top of the list here with the highest level of approval.
Everyone likes firemen.
Yeah, that is a typical pattern, to be honest. So 86% approve of the job the fire department is doing, including majority, 57% who strongly approve of it. But police department is also at 75% approval. Parks and Rec, a reasonably solid majority as well, 58% approve of the job we're doing. And city government overall, about half, 49% approve of the job, but 36% disapprove. So it's a little more ambivalent reactions there, and there's a little more intensity on the disapproval side than the approval side. So the next section here, unless there are any questions about that, I'm going to go dig a little bit deeper to a couple questions about public safety specifically here in the city. We're having a PowerPoint version issue, so some of the titles appear to be squishing some things. If it's material, I'll try to clarify it here. One of the questions that we often ask in these surveys is a generic question. Here are some potential problems that may be facing your community. You tell us how serious of a problem do you think this is? And that lets us get a feel for what people are really concerned about. People come here and interact with you. People grab you on the street and say, I'm concerned about this particular issue. But does that really represent what the majority of residents, in this case voters, think? And we want to see how issues related specifically to a Measure H measure would play. So in this case, the scale is a little obscured there, but it's the dark brown bars or something that is seen as an extremely serious problem. The light brown bars or the medium brown bars is a very serious problem. The very light one is somewhat, and the blue bar is not too serious of a problem. So in our line of work, we tend to focus on the more intense reactions. So a problem that seems to be extremely serious or very serious, that's something that people care about. So looking at this list here, a few things, you had more than a majority of respondents who said that they feel like it is an extremely or very serious problem. Homelessness, gangs and youth violence, potholes and street maintenance. And we highlighted that one because a full 43% said it was an extremely serious problem. That one generated the most intensity out of everything we asked about here. Potholes. I didn't hit any when I was driving over here today, but I'll take your voters' word for it, and I see some nodding heads. Okay. That's always good. It helps validate the results. Going down this list here, in terms of things related to potential of putting a measure on next year's ballot, the items that we look for, and a few of these things are things that you don't have a ton of control over, but they're interesting benchmarks. The cost of housing is something that you have some control over, but that's also a bigger issue. We just kind of want to see where it stacks up here. But you see waste and inefficiency in city government, almost half said that was an extremely very serious problem. And if you're looking at a 2/3 measure, that's something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Looking through a couple other things here, the amount people pay in city taxes, only about a third saw that as a particularly pressing issue. And I generally see somewhere between 25 and 33% in most communities, actually. So that's right and sort of in the sweet spot that we see elsewhere. And if you look down here at I'm not sure if it is highlighted, no, the second to last item here, how quickly police and fire respond to 911 calls. Only 1 in 5 have any sort of appreciable concern about that. And that's very consistent with those approval numbers that we saw. So in terms of things that people are concerned about here, on public safety side, gang and youth violence is up there. Homelessness and potholes are up there as well. Response times are not a top tier concern for voters here in your community. We did ask, and the italicized language is the exact language that was either read to the respondent on the phone or they read on themselves online. Do you feel like crime has basically increased or decreased in the last few years? 53% said they think it's increased. About one in five said they think it's increased significantly. Roughly 1 in 10 said they think it's actually gone down. But I mean, a pretty big chunk said, I don't know, or it hasn't really changed much. And we have a little note about who is most likely to perceive there's been an increase there. And you can ask your police chief if this sort of corresponds with reality. Sometimes perceptions are very different, thanks to things like Nextdoor and other sort of online platforms. But we like to sometimes dig a little bit deeper in this and look at both violent crime and property crime and see if there's a difference in that perception there. And there was a little bit, but not dramatic. 55% feel like property crime levels have gone up, have increased. 48% violent crime and a little more intensity on a 26 significantly increased versus 19 for violent crime. We're seeing this also in many communities, also here in the valley here, is that the property crimes seem to be the thing that are generating a little more intensity, a little more concern, and a little more visibility for residents. This is a benchmark question, kind of a proxy for support for a finance measure. And this is a generic question. How much would you say that Atwater, the language here, has a need for funding, for additional funding for city services in general, parks and rec, police patrols, and fire? And this gives us a little bit of a sense of where maybe a ceiling of support would be. If you generically don't feel that the city has a need for a greater some level of funding, you're probably not going to support a finance measure on the ballot. And you'll see here that we're sort of hovering in that roughly 70%, 7 out of 10 kind of range, whether it be generically for city services, parks and rec, and police, maybe a tick lower for fire. Again, we saw those response rates. Response time's not really a strong concern, so that corresponds there a little bit. Let's get to the actual measures themselves here. So this is the hypothetical 75 words. We worked with staff and legal counsel on drafting these. There's a lot to read through here, but this is that 75 word, very long sentence that we try to jam everything in there, including, since the last time I think you probably put a finance measure on the ballot, you have to include some additional language in those 75 words. It's called AB 195. So in addition to just saying the rate of the measure, you have to say the duration of the tax, how much it generates on an annual basis, even if it's a bit of an approximation. And you'll see that, so we have these additional provisions in here about how much it generates annually. So the renewal measure is a half cent. The increase is a full cent, and you'll see the corresponding differences there. So how do people react to those? Basically somewhat similar. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that 3/4 of respondents said that they would vote yes, hypothetically, for renewing Measure H, essentially. And 72% within the margin of error, remember these are split samples, so the margin of error is about 8% on each of these, said they would vote yes at a full cent. The intensity is a little bit higher on the renewal side, and we can see the spectrum we have here. If someone said yes or no, we pushed them. Is that definitely a probable? And if they're initially a fence sitter, we said you're leaning one way or another. And it gives us a little bit of a spectrum here. Not a lot of true undecideds. This is something that people made up their mind about. A sales tax is not a complicated tax measure, so they can kind of say yes or yay or nay on it. And because we noted that this is in reference to a previously voter-approved measure, I think we had a lot of people kind of made up their mind pretty quickly here. And for a measure like this, as a crude rule of thumb for a 2/3 measure, we want to see support above the vote threshold, exceeding it by the margin of error. You want to see more intensity on the yes side than no side, and traditionally you want to see those definitely yeses into the 40s to show some viability here. And you don't want to see a lot of leaners, those who are kind of only wishy-washy about their support or opposition. So at the 10,000 foot level, this meets those basic kind of criteria initially. Now, we'll go through the survey and we'll see that there's some changes of opinion as people learn a little bit more. Because these two numbers were so close, and because their sample size wasn't particularly large, we combined them for some analysis in the survey so we could take advantage of that full 300 respondents here. So keep in mind about 73% when we combine these two versions. And one of the things that staff asked us to call out for this presentation was, well, was there a difference based upon ethnicity? And there really wasn't at all. So if you looked at the white voters, Latino voters, and aggregating all voters of color here in Atwater, support levels were all basically around the same level. I noted at the beginning when we talked about the sampling methodology, we pulled a sample of those who are likely to vote next November. It's the easiest sample for pollsters to model because it's a presidential turnout and a lot of people vote. And we're also looking at a March turnout as well. A little trickier because this March primary is a little bit unprecedented, and for the first, people will be voting in California increasingly by mail, which means they'll be voting, frankly, in February when the other early states are having their presidential primaries as well. But doing our best to kind of model what that would look like, there really wasn't much difference. And obviously, it's a bit of a variable between what will happen between now and March. But it didn't seem like there was much difference in the electorates for March versus November. We also, in the versions that we tested initially, they did not have a sunset in them, so they would go on they would go on. What we did is we did ask a follow-up question and said, well, we weren't sure how people would react to that. Well, what about if there was a 9-year sunset? And you'll see it's kind of an interesting result here. In aggregate, support went down, but in intensity, it went up. So some people didn't like the fact there was a sunset, they wanted it to last, and some people got a little more excited about the measure with the sunset. So it's a little bit of a split decision there, intensity up and aggregate down. And we tested a little bit about that later on. We'll get back to this issue of the sunset later in the presentation. Hold on. The next set of slides here is we presented a variety of ways that money from a measure could be spent and asked respondents to indicate how important it was to them personally. And we did because one of the measures was a renewal only, one was an increase. Those who heard the increase got asked slightly different items because they were talking about improving facilities and improving response times and things of that nature, which wouldn't be affordable under the strict renewal approach. And we'll talk about that a little bit here. But the scale we used here is how important is the money from a potential measure be spent in these categories. The extremely and very important numbers are those darker blue bars. We summarize those on the right side. Once again, it's the intense reactions that we tend to care about. And you'll see a couple themes here. One, the top two things, and we kind of shoehorn them into this question structure, were about accountability and financial stability. One, just maintain the city's long-term financial stability. But the thing that generated the most intensity was keeping money here in Atwater. Clearly a lot of state distrust in this community. I mean, that's a pretty intense number there. That's 3 out of 5, so that's extremely important the money be kept here locally. And then for the most part, everything on this first slide, I think we have 3 slides in this series, is about maintaining. Look at that first word there. Maintaining patrols, maintaining different types of investigative services, maintaining local fire protection, local police protection. A lot of things about maintaining. Second slide in this series, you still have somewhere in the 60s or 70s respondents saying extremely or very important way to spend the money. Those dark blue bars have now gotten dipped in more in the 30 range here, and you start to see a couple of things about improving police patrols, improving emergency response times, upgrading police facilities, a few things in that nature in the second slide here. And then I believe this is the last slide, and then we'll break out this in a little more detail. A few other items here. Again, modernizing, expanding police and fire facilities, improving energy efficiency police stations, replacing aging police and fire facilities are down towards the bottom of the list. Now, I think your police and fire chief should be the first to say that oftentimes you cannot even maintain response rates unless you do something about some of these aging facilities. We've seen over and over again in communities that voters care about the outputs and less about the inputs. So for them, it is, I want someone to come when I call 911, I want the crime investigated, I want someone here if there's a medical emergency. How you're able to deliver that service is less important to me. The outcome really is important. I think we see that pretty strongly here. We looked at just the accountability items, just about citizens oversight, audits, and keeping funds here locally. And it's interesting that the keeping funds here locally was the most important sort of broad sort of accountability type item here. And then a little side-by-side comparison. Thematically, I try to highlight this a little bit here, but you see things like maintaining police patrols was seen as a little more valuable than improving them. Maintaining fire protection, the same. Same with emergency response times. I think what's a little bit interesting here is that last row is when we talked about replacing the aging fire and police facilities, modernizing and expanding those facilities was deemed as less important as repairing those leaky roofs and outdated wiring. Those are things that people get. They understand that if there's roofs leaking or the wiring is faulty and all deteriorating, I understand that. I've got a house, I have the same issues. We should be spending money to fix that. We talk generically about replacing the aging ones and modernizing them. I think that tended to not strike as a strong accord with response to the survey. All right. The next section here is if you were to put something on the ballot, then there'd be a dialogue in the community back and forth about it. And it's very hard for us to guess exactly what the impact of that would be and what everyone would say, but we try to do a little bit of that in the survey just to give us a feel for the ceiling and floor for a measure if there's an exchange of points of view about it. And so what we had here is, this is the half-cent renewal measure. And we went through, here are some statements from people who might support this, and here are some statements from people who may oppose it. And we asked after each of those set of statements, well, you tell me how you'd vote on this measure after you heard this. And you'll see that after going through statements in favor of the renewal measure, support dropped 3 points. That's margin of error on, because it's the 8% margin of error on the split sample. But when we came in with criticism, support dropped down below the 2/3 level. Again, we're in this 8% margin of error. It could be right around there, but it suggests that we're started off at the ceiling for this particular measure. And the dynamic was pretty similar for the 1 cent increase. Basically, actually went up a little bit, but we're basically hovering in the low mid-70s as a ceiling of support for one of these measures. And with the floor going through it, basically right around the 2/3 threshold, or maybe a point or two below it. This is a whole heck of a lot of text. These are some of the statements, hypothetical statements that someone could say in support of one of these measures here. I'm going to kind of skip through them. You can and get to the punchline here is that we said, well, how convincing are each of these to vote yes? And we did the same on the no side. We'll get to that in a moment. So this was how convincing an argument it was to support a public safety measure here in the city, and the response times argument was at the top of the list. That was a very health-focused one, but also the accountability, which is not surprising given that 61% thought that keeping all the funds here in Atwater was extremely important. What's kind of interesting is that the tier rating, I'll just go back to this one here. In isolation, we talked about modernizing or updating outdated police and fire facilities. People weren't too thrilled about it. We put it in a little bit of context here, that they're more than 50 years old, they don't meet earthquake standards, safety standards. That actually really seemed to be much more compelling with that context. Stuff about helping maintain property values here, things of that nature weren't as compelling of an argument. Going to the opposite side. Here's why you should vote no on this thing. These arguments tend to be a little more visceral because they can kind of cut to the chase. Taxes are too high, you're going to waste our money, things of that nature. There was a couple things that were specific to this measure. The very last item here was basically, this thing is never going to expire. It's going to go on forever. And sometimes we see just that very succinct criticism, be pretty effective. And the top two items here were unique to your community in reference to Measure H, basically making assertions that the money wasn't spent as promised originally. And as we go through here, you see that those top two items were seen as some of the most compelling reasons to oppose a measure. And that last one there about it going on forever didn't move the needle a whole lot. It's kind of consistent with some of those ambivalent thoughts and responses we had to having a sunset or not. That doesn't seem to be a make or break thing. It really seems to be about other elements. So that gets us to the end of the special purpose measure. And as I noted up front, we did ask about a general purpose measure as an alternative, just because the vote threshold is dramatically different. So this one also mentions a number of the same public safety items here, but also talks about streets and sidewalks and traffic safety, things of that nature here. I will add that they got this after they've heard a whole bunch of arguments in favor of the public safety measures and opposed to them. So they just heard, here's why you should vote no on a public safety measure, and then we asked them about this alternative. Not the fairest test, and when most people vote, they wouldn't have heard all these different arguments necessarily, but it does give us a little bit of an idea of reactions to it. And 58% said no, which said yes, sorry, which is obviously a lot lower than those numbers we saw in the 70s for a public safety measure. The difference being that this has a majority vote threshold versus a 2/3 threshold. I would wager that if this was asked at the beginning of the survey, before having pro and con back and forth, that it would be a number probably higher than 58%, but I don't think it would be all the way at that in the 70s necessarily. And again, just responding to staff request here, we did isolate the vote here by ethnicity, and again, not a lot of difference here. So, it's a lot of me talking here. I'll get to the last couple takeaways and wrap up here before opening it up for questions and discussion. So, police, fire, parks, got some pretty strong positive reactions. City government overall, positive on basically, but a little more mixed, which is kind of consistent with whether or not people are optimistic or pessimistic about where the city's headed. More positive than negative, but not overly so. But at the same time, there are pretty solid majorities who feel like the city needs additional funding for all different types of services, whether it's specifically police, fire, parks, but also just broadly speaking. In terms of crime, you got majorities who feel like crime rates have gone up, whether that be for violent crime and particularly for property crime here. But response times, people feel pretty good about those right now. Now, I'm sure there's individuals who had experiences that they would beg to differ, but by and large, the voters that we talked to here said that they feel good about those response times, which is consistent with the high approval ratings we saw for the two departments. In terms of expanding and modernizing the facilities, it was not a high priority, but once we did dig into and explain that there's earthquake safety issues, or things are falling apart, it's an issue for evidence storage, that seemed to elevate concern levels. So when it comes to putting something on the ballot, something you'll have to have some time to consider here, it looks like putting a special purpose measure on the ballot is potentially viable, but clearly is challenging. It starts off in those 70 range, which is a nice, good starting place for a 2/3 measure. You're not going to start off in the 80s for a measure like this. But it did fall below or right around that 2/3 vote threshold when there was an exchange of opinions about it. There wasn't a huge difference between the straight renewal and the increase, other than a lot of the spending priorities, which are about maintaining, tend to resonate stronger than improving for the most part. Adding a sunset, we kind of poked and prodded at that a few different places in here. Didn't really make a huge difference. For some it did one way and some the other, so it probably comes out in the wash a little bit. And there wasn't a huge difference between March and November either. In terms of a general purpose measure, support for that was lower, but it was still materially above the vote threshold for a majority vote measure. Keeping in mind that that probably wasn't a fair test for that one. We just started saying the city's going to waste all the money and everything like that, and then we said, well, what about this other measure? So it was probably putting our thumb on the scale a little bit on the no side for that measure. Okay, so that concludes my presentation.
Council, do you want me to open up public comment first, or you guys want to make comments? Okay, this time I'll open up to public comment. Any members of the public like to come forward on this agenda item, please step forward and state your name.
All right, Rich Miller, 334 Silva Drive here in Atwater, also pastor of Victory Baptist Church. So I have a number of questions. I think that it's very clear that our community supports our fire department, our police department, but 300 people doesn't seem like a very big, group to be surveying. I find myself, because I have been coming to the city council meetings for the last 9 months, defending the city council a lot to people. Even before I came here out at the farm, I was talking to someone who had gotten the survey and asked me if I had gotten it or been involved in it, and I said no. And they said, why are they asking for more money? And what I wanted to say is, well, you've just got to come to all the city council meetings. But we know that doesn't happen, and we know it's not going to happen. So to me, there's a big PR issue here, first off. But 1% of your population, because we're at, 27, 28,000, so 1% is not a very big litmus test to me. And I also noticed how it was stated, to prevent cutbacks. I believe because the people in our community support our fire department and our police department, we don't want any cutbacks. We want these men and women having all the support they can get. I guess there's a number of questions I had just going through this, and I guess the biggest one I could leave is, why do we have to consider this now? Being that this is a new council, being that I believe you guys are headed in the right direction, you need the support of the community behind you. Why does this have to be done now? Could it be put off for 1 year, since the current one is not expiring until 2023 is what I understood, if I heard things correctly. So if you could explain that maybe, and then I'm just looking at the PR side of it for you folks, because I do believe we're headed in the right direction. Okay.
Thank you. Any other members of the public come forward at this time? Chief, can you get the microphone forward?
Okay, I understand public safety, right?
Can you hold on one second? We're going to bring you a microphone.
Oh.
And state your name when you get the microphone, please.
My name's Jerry Farmer. I live at 2385 3rd Street in Atwater, and we're talking public safety. I've asked for a stop sign and crosswalks at that intersection because I don't want to see a kid from Elmer Wood run over. I've had to tell parents that the man wasn't coming home. And public safety is number one. Safety comes first. If you want to charge 5% more, I'll vote it in. I've voted yes on every school bond this city since 1970. Yes on it. I've never questioned it. I think the chief needs more money. This gentleman over here needs more money. This gentleman here needs more money for our public safety. And we don't need a dog catcher. We need more of these people. And if you want to raise it 5%, I'll vote yes 5%. We need to get it done right away. Let's not wait till the last day, because everybody else will be in town ahead of us again. So I want you guys to say yes, let's move on and get it buttoned up, be done with it, before somebody else takes the money from us again. But give the chief more money, give Vic more money, give the firemen more money. Whatever it takes, let's get it done and quit beating around the bush. Like I said, I've asked for that stop sign since the January 24th, when I took a nosedive off of you know about it, I showed you pictures of my knee. I showed the chief pictures. I took a nosedive off of a piece of concrete sidewalk, which is owned by the city. I tore my knee up bad. I've got a prosthetic leg. I don't use it anymore because of that. And it took 7.5 months to get that piece of concrete fixed. That's unacceptable to me. So get the money from wherever we can, steal or whatever, but give that man more money, and this gentleman more money, and you guys can sleep a lot better at night, knowing our city is a lot safer. My neighbor across the street got broken into Friday night. Nobody knows anything. We weren't home, the neighborhood is gone, but his stuff got stolen. Let's give that chief more money to stop this stuff. I mean, I clocked a Camaro down 60 on 3rd Street the other night. The chief said he'd bring out one of those machines that tells you how fast you're. That car was doing 67 miles an hour down 3rd Street from Juniper. That's ridiculous. So we need to get out, write tickets, get the money in the city, and do what the chief needs, what Vern needs, and the fireman needs. The money's here if the people will just go after it. And I'll vote yes if it's even 5%. I live on Social Security, but I've been in this town since 1970. It's gone from a good town, and the last bunch of gentlemen and folks that run it has run it into the ground. It's embarrassing to say you're from Atwater, California. You come in on each end of the town, I wouldn't put a business in this town because a junkyard on that end, flea market on that end, and junkyard on that end. Clean up each end of the exits.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go home.
Be safe.
Before my blood pressure gets any higher and this man takes me to jail. Thank you, folks.
He's gonna catch the door for you too.
Oh, don't worry, I'm not handicapped. I'm just lower than everybody else.
Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time regarding this item? Seeing one more, we'll leave it open. State your name.
Gabe Santos for the
Welcome.
City of Atwater. Coming in late, apologize about that, but was watching the TV broadcast, and I just asked that the city council please, as we move forward with some things, I know we've got a newer city council, and you're doing great. Thank you for everything you're doing. But in 2008, Citygate Associates did a study for the City of Atwater regarding the fire protection services. And as we move forward with looking at additional taxes and those kinds of things, I just encourage every single one of you to review this document. It's dated February 4th, 2008. City of Atwater paid a lot of money for this study. We'd be doing the City of Atwater disjustice if we didn't review this prior to raising taxes for any funds or any public service. One of the main things in this document was that the north side of the City of Atwater, the northernmost portion, was being, I don't want to use the term neglected, but response times to that particular section were much greater than the other portions of the City of Atwater. So with that being said, as we move forward, I fully support, as I was listening to the stats, City of Atwater has a population of just shy of 30,000, correct?
Correct.
When we do a study with 300 people, I'm a little worried about that. So we're going to have to go out and educate the public on the needs, and I fully support Chief Salvador and Chief Slate on that, but we need to really look at this study. It made some really good recommendations, and not very much of it's been done. So before we move forth on, deciding what we're going to spend some of this additional funds on, if this tax does go through, we need to look at that and just make sure we're moving forward with, city have already paid a lot of money for this study, and a lot of good research was done regarding response times and everything else for the City of Atwater. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think the fire department and police department are already looking at that, but in the future, I think after you hear tonight, you're going to be happy with what you hear. Any other members of the public like to come forward on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment, bring it back to the dais. Raymond?
Yeah, I just have a question on on how you got your sample, and for the likely voters, was just the high propensity from the previous presidential or from the special election we did?
Yep. So it's from the voter file, and it's basically a model that takes into consideration the last, I think it was last maybe three or four elections. So it included participation in the lower turnout elections, because if you participate in one of those, you're definitely going to participate in a presidential. And then to address maybe a couple of the other questions, I think that the population may be around 27,000. I think when we looked at voters, there's about 12,000 or maybe a little hair less registered voters, maybe around 9,000 November voters for next year when we were modeling it. And in terms of the number of interviews, I could talk a little bit about our sampling methodology, but if we do 300 interviews here in Atwater versus 300 across the state of California, and you use an appropriate sampling methodology, your margin of error, sampling error, is going to be the same in both those circumstances, which is about 5.7%. So a lot of nationwide surveys are only 800 or 1,000 interviews.
Okay, now did you do any, or ask a question regarding like a crowded ballot with multiple like tax measures? Because in Merced County, we're looking at the county looking at a jail expansion. We're looking at this here and another school bond. And so you start adding on all the different tax increases, we don't know what the support would be like then when you're seeing the voter being robbed every time they turn around.
Yeah. We didn't ask about that specifically because we thought at this juncture we'd be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because a lot of these measures are still being considered and aren't for sure going to be on the ballot next year. I think that generally speaking, if communities feel like there's a need, that for that particular jurisdiction and they feel like the funding mechanism makes sense and is appropriate, they tend to support those in our experience, regardless of what else is on the ballot. If you look back at November, there are some communities in the state where there were 3, 4, 5 different measures that people were all voting on, and in many cases they had success multiple times.
Any other members of the council? So, go ahead, John.
I was just wondering, do we have a copy of your presentation?
Yep.
Okay, because I would really like to sit down with that presentation and more than listening to him and read the whole thing and report. So if that could be, that would be a huge benefit for me. Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to touch why, I think the question came up a couple of different times. Why are we doing it now versus letting it expire? The methodology is far more complicated than I can answer, so I'm going to turn it back over to you to answer why not just let it come right up to the edge and then try to do something, because there's opportunities, and I'll let you discuss that. If you're successful or if you're not successful, at the end of the day, we're still trying to keep our police and fire and not have any layoffs in that department. So we, the council, are looking at this, considering it, so that we have options, so we don't just wait and say, well, put it on the next council, I'll see you later, let you guys figure it out. We're actually rolling our sleeves up and having the discussion. It's the people's decision on what to do with this. It's their vote, it's their right, it's everything else, but it's also our obligation to present it to them so they have options. We don't put them in a corner. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can speak to that, and then if staff has any, wants to weigh in on this too. The general conventional wisdom is for a finance measure, the higher the turnout, the better opportunity you have to pass something. Your electorate tends to be a little more reflective of different demographic groups that tend to support finance measures. It can vary in different communities. So in a presidential year, particularly with this March election, which should be early enough that conceivably the turnout's going to be higher than in traditional elections, you have 2 potential bites at the apple, which is I think what you're referring to there. And if you were to wait and try to put something on the ballot in an odd year, and I think Councilmember Raymond mentioned this, your turnout in an election like that is quite low. And then you're a little more at the whim of who's going to show up for an election like that, and it's a little less predictable versus presidential, where people are going to turn out no matter what. It's just a matter of educating them. So I think that part of the calculus here is that considering something for next year, and I'm not advocating that you necessarily put something on the ballot, but this is an opportunity where you have multiple chances. You could put something on in March, and if that doesn't pass, you could augment it and put something on November. Obviously, there's costs associated with that. I don't want to minimize those for the city. But this is the approach versus waiting till the very end, wherein you really have your if you don't pass something in a lower turnout election, which is going to be a tougher scenario, I think you put your public safety services potentially a little more.
I think that's really super key, is that if we can potentially put this, we don't know how it's going to go, but if say it makes it for March and the voters tank it, we're kind of getting a barometer, okay, and then we do it again maybe in November and they do it again, we're like, okay, we need a transition. They're not going to do anything with this, so we could hear what they're saying, or they do pass it, and then we listen to what they wanted, and then that's when the ad hoc committees from the public are involved, like one of the residents was saying tonight, that, hey, make sure you use it for staffing, make sure you use it the way they want it, because it's time to do what the voters want, not in the years past where they've done different things, and spell it out a little bit clearer for the voters. And that's where we move forward with taking the conceptual idea to where you presented tonight for us to give staff direction to pursue this or not pursue this.
I think it's also important to identify that if you choose to bring the measure back forward in March, that this would take the place of the existing one. They're not going to overlap, so there won't be double.
Right. It wouldn't be, yeah, exactly. So, council, what's your pleasure?
Well, what's our option? What do you want from us?
So at this point, we're just looking for direction. If council's direction is to bring forth to the full council public safety use tax ballot measure on the March 3rd election, then staff would bring at the next meeting a resolution identifying that and what it would look like, and it would, I think, Jose, if you want to weigh in on what else it would need to have.
Yeah, you would be basically, and I think that staff has been looking at the timelines with the county, and November 4th, I believe, is a deadline of placing a ballot measure, which seems a little early, but I think we should, and we'll double check that, of course, but we're looking at getting kind of direction from the council in order to prepare the documentation that we would need in order to place the ballot measure on the ballot. And again, their decisions and just listening to the presentation, there were some things discussed as far as general tax versus special taxes. The special tax is what you currently have right now. If you placed and it's just more for content, not swaying one way or the other, just for content. If you placed a special tax similar to what you have now on the election in March, which would be considered a kind of a special election, not an election where a council member is up for election, you could place it on there no problem. If you place a general tax, meaning the money is not, it's not selected to be spent on very specific things. It's not earmarked to be spent on specific things. If it's a general tax that goes to the general fund, you would have to declare or pass some resolution declaring an emergency. Most likely, many jurisdictions have considered it a fiscal emergency in order, again, to get a general tax on an election where a council member is not running for office. I just throw that out there just as you're thinking about it. I think some of the presentation talked about potholes. You don't fix potholes with your public safety tax. That's a general tax. I definitely answer any questions about those, the differences. I just wanted to bring that up since the...
Okay, I did want to comment on that also, what he was saying. The public safety versus the general, I think the comments heard tonight, I know I hear those out on the street. It's public safety, and at the end of the day, I just want to make that comment. Raymond, go ahead.
Well, everybody knows I think taxation is theft. But I have a question for the chiefs. If we were to do nothing and allow this just to expire and sunset, what happens with your guys' departments?
Chief, can you go to the podium?
I'll go ahead and start while Chief Slate goes to the podium. The effect of the loss of Measure H, and I'll use that because that's what people know it by. The loss of Measure H is $1.8 million to the police department. And out of that $1.8 million, 83 cents of that dollar is personnel. The current police department budget is just a little around $7.2 million. 85 cents of that 85% of that $7.2 million is personnel. So a loss of $1.8 million to the police department is about the equivalent of 6 positions.
So you'd see a decline in 6 bodies, or
Yes,
6?
sir. Plus the reserve program, plus the part-timers, plus...
I think in a conversation that we spoke about before, Chief, when we
Yes.
talked about Measure H, I think basically what you commented to me is it would be devastating to our police department to lose the Measure H.
Oh,
Absolutely devastating.
No, absolutely. If you look at the police department as a whole, out of the $7.2 million, about 85% of that is personnel. We operate on services and supplies about $1.2 million out of the 5 budget areas. So there isn't enough gas money to replace a loss of Measure H or whatever its equivalent is.
Okay.
Fire Chief?
As for the fire department, Councilmember Raymond, to kind of address, now, the professional services agreement that the city has with CAL FIRE, this last fiscal budget that was approved, that you approved, about $403,000 went towards that professional services agreement. Our positions aren't as dependent. However, if you take the money out of the general fund, it's all basically going to collapse. So it has to come from somewhere. Our contract is around this next fiscal year is like $3.1 million annually. That's our professional services agreement. So if that money comes away, the police department's going to get cut 6 positions for sure, and then the fire department's going to hopefully be maintained, but there is no other positions to cut. We have 2 people on each piece of equipment. If we have a structure fire, four bodies on those 2 pieces of equipment. You can't take any more people off of a fire engine. If you took less, we would have 1, and then that's not going to happen. It'd be devastating to the contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council members? So, we're looking to give direction. So you guys have a choice, special public safety or general, correct? Can you come back to the podium? Help me with this on what we're trying to accomplish here.
Sure. So what we looked at was a special purpose measure that extends H at the half-cent rate. So keeping basically everything the same, keeping everything whole. The other measure that we looked at was again, special purpose, public safety only, but a 1 cent rate, which would essentially be a doubling of that rate. And then we also looked at the general purpose measure as an alternative as well. So those are the 3 different ones we looked at.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
My thought would be that we have staff work up something, for each item, but, as Councilmember Kale said, it'd be nice to get a copy of the presentation so we can go over the numbers, look at it to see what would, best work. I mean, if we just give direction off the seat of our pants, we don't know exactly what we're getting, because I'm half blind and I couldn't really read what was up there. So I would like to, be able to go over that, on my own and actually digest the numbers.
Okay.
It was a great presentation, by the way.
I want to make a quick comment, and I agree with you, Councilman Raymond. Look over the dashboard. We're shooting for November 2nd, 4th to be on the ballot. So we're rolling to make the March. We almost have to, and I know you guys don't like being in a box or not a box or whatever, but we may have to consider giving direction tonight, because we have one more council meeting before that November deadline. But it's crucial that we know the time frame that staff can deliver whatever you're going to request, get back, so that we can meet whatever deadline, so we don't miss the opportunity in March. Kale?
I guess my question to staff would be, how difficult would it be to present us with both the half-cent and the 0.5% and the 1% to us by next meeting?
If I can add while you think about that for a sec. So if it's okay if I...
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So the general purpose measure, as your city attorney noted, you couldn't put on the March ballot unless you declared it an emergency. So I think that's probably something you could put aside for consideration until a later date.
Right.
So we're looking at one of the 2 special purpose measures here. The statutory deadline, I believe, is December 6th. It sounds like the county has...
I've just verified, the county sets their own calendar.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up, and it sounds early, but it is November 4th is the resolution requesting measure consolidation must be submitted to the Board of Supervisors. A copy of the resolution is to be provided to the Registrar of Voters.
Okay.
Okay, Raymond?
Mayor, back to what you said, I just have to strongly disagree. We've been entrusted by the voters to make the best decision possible, and not being able to read, I listened to what I could, took notes, but not being able to read it, I cannot make that decision.
Okay, and I agree, but I think the details, I agree, I think that's fine. I think staff could meet what needs to be done by giving council another shot at it, let them digest what they've read tonight, let them go over it. It's important we get this right, so if that's what Councilman Raymond wants to do, I think that's a valid point, and something we consider. Do you want to put that in a motion or anything?
Do you want to have a special meeting prior to the next one?
You're asking me if I want to have a special meeting?
Okay, hold on one second. Viera?
So let me clarify this. So if we want to get this on the March ballot, basically if we want a general purpose tax, that can't happen in March. That's going to happen November anyway. I would hope we could get this on the March ballot. So really, what we need to do is review a little closer the information in the comments. That's really what I missed tonight, is all of the comments.
With that, you want to just cut out, can you modify your deal so you cut out the general?
He's
We
just
just-
presenting us the findings, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's not his
yeah.
job, that's.
You could give
that's city
staff direction to bring back 2 different resolutions to consider.
That's right.
And one is the special purpose, one is the a half cent, one's the full cent, both special purpose. And then you could
Yes.
make a determination then while you have time to.
That's what I'm asking.
And one of the things I did take away from the presentation is that the most likely to vote against were Republican voters that were coming out. There was a little box in there.
That was perceptions of crime going up. They were the most
Crime
likely
going
to
up,
perceive
okay.
that crime was going
Yeah,
increasing.
because, you're looking at that, primaries typically have a higher Republican turnout than the presidential, the general. So I was just trying to take all that into consideration, so.
I think this March is it's unpredictable, but it feels like the dynamic may be a little bit different because there's not competition on the Republican side of the ticket. There is on the Democratic side, and it's actually early enough to be material as
Yeah.
opposed to always being after everything's settled.
Yes.
So you can put that in a motion or direction?
We're taking a motion?
No, direction.
All right, I'd like to see a direction that should give us the potential of a half cent and the 1 cent increase in a public safety, not the general. And by next meeting, and then provide us with the information.
I think we also need to discuss sunset versus no sunset.
That should be the sunset, no sunset in both of those. So that question's in both. So you have 4 you're going to
So
answer.
4 different.
Okay?
Okay.
So each one, 2 answers. We okay with that? Can we do that in time? We have 2 weeks, okay?
We good, Jose?
We can make anything happen. And it could be really 2 resolutions, and the sunset part could be just stricken out if there's no sunset, or it could be just optional language that could easily be stricken out on the final document. But it'll just be, the important part is getting the question right. I know that there was a sample on one of the slides as far as the questions, 1 for each already. So we have a starting point already on the questions themselves, which is what's going to appear on the actual ballot. We'll also look at, remember the tax does have an ordinance as well, component. You do have an ordinance in your municipal code. We'll have to kind of go through the process of looking at what that kind of also incorporating. There's going to have to be changes, obviously, to the ordinance as well for your municipal code.
So is it possible tonight to make a decision, and I don't know if Councilmember Raymond, as a council, do we want to even consider tonight one thing? Yes, we do want this on the March ballot, and then that would take out a little bit of it, and then we simply are down to, what if up here we don't even have enough that want to put it on the March ballot and we do all this work for nothing?
Well, you're
So-
giving staff directions, so that's a valid point. We can have that discussion right now with council, what you guys, how can we do that, Jose, without?
No, it's just having a discussion. First question, I think, Councilmember Vieira, that's a great question. I think that it's almost like the threshold item is, do you even want the tax to appear in March?
Right.
At all. So I think going down, Mayor,
So
from council members.
let's do that. Let's just get a simple yes or no. As the city attorney said, are you interested in having this on the March ballot, public safety measure, either half or 1 cent Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Creighton, yes. Viera?
Yes.
Raymond?
Already made my feelings known, I abstain.
Yeah, I'm willing to pursue it. I'm with Councilman Raymond. I need to, obviously you are well-versed in statistics. I barely made statistics class in passing. So I really need to sit down and view this much more completely. So, but yes, if what you're saying is true, and I'm not questioning that, I just want to look at it, then your view on it, my view on it, need to be the same.
Sounds like we have the majority, 4 yes, 1 no, so we're going to head towards that, or one abstention, that we're interested in it. Was there any more details that council wanted out of this? So we're vested in doing this. They're going to do the work between now and next council meeting, present back the two options with 2 options each.
Perfect.
So we could definitely do that, and, you know, worst case scenario, we're having a special meeting later in the week in order to tweak something or finalize a document, so we can make the November 4th deadline.
And if we could get those resolutions of those to us as quickly as possible, as soon as they're done, then that would be great to be able to review that too.
Okay. Just so we're clear, we're saying that the two, what level of detail is council asking for? What do you guys expect back? What do you expect to see? Mr. Vieira? You looking for a huge staff report with all the numbers, statistics, or are you looking for the PowerPoint again with?
I just want to, I think what I need to see is what I already know. I already feel that I know where I want to go.
Okay.
But,
Raymond, what would you like to see?
Typical item, just, you know, staff report.
Okay. Kale, you want to see?
Yeah,
anything?
I would Councilman Raymond.
Okay.
May I finish, Mayor?
Go ahead.
We'll have all the numbers and everything, so basically just a breakdown of the half cent or 1 cent, since that's all we can really touch on.
So on that breakdown, what do you want to see in that? Like, what additional?
Just
or
a staff
less?
report. I mean, we've already got, we'll get the numbers, we'll be able to review them. So the only thing I'll care about at that point is just where we're going with it. A half cent, 1 cent, that, you know, however the city manager writes it up, or the city attorney.
Okay. All right. Ambrose, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Kale?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. City manager, you have your homework. Okay, thank you, guys. Item 10, 2019 Edward Varian Memorial Justice Assistance Grant and Resolution approving budget amendment related to the grant. Police Chief.
Mr. Mayor, this is a public hearing, so if you would like to open the public hearing now.
You want to introduce the
Sure.
item first and then?
All right. This is a yearly task that the police department has. The Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Program has been called a lot of things. It's been called the Byrne JAG Grant, it's been called the JAG Grant, it's been called the Block JAG Grant. This is basically an allocation given by the Department of Justice every year to agencies throughout the country based on their crime statistics. The police department has been giving this grant here in Atwater for quite some time. It basically is generated on the reporting. When we talked about the RIMS project earlier tonight, we talked about the change in that reporting. The change in that reporting is going to affect this grant program. We do get an allocation in this grant program. It does require that the council acts to accept the grant and the application for the grant. If I could have everybody that was here tonight, please sign in. At the back, there's a sign-in sheet that showed that you appeared at the public hearing. We have 2 projects that we are going to take care of with this grant allocation this year. One of them is the server for the RIMS project. And the second is a new automated software package for the department that will allow us to monitor our scheduling and our overtime and that piece of the HR puzzle to allow us to be better stewards of your money.
Okay, this time we'll open up to the public comment. Any members of the public would like to come forward on this item, please come forward and state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the council for direction or comment.
Motion to approve the item as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Viera.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Creighton,
Yes.
motion passes.
Item number 12, we moved 11 up as a urgent item. Number 12, resolution authorizing submittal of grant application for the San Joaquin Air Pollution Control District Charge-Up Vehicle Charger Incentive Program and Alternate Fuel Mechanic Training Incentive Component. City Manager Waterman.
Mayor and City Council, this is a joint staff report. The city is continually looking for ways to improve service to the residents, and through the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, we recently purchased 5 vehicles, and now we're looking at a program that will fund the purchase and installation of new electric vehicle charging stations for these vehicles, not only to staff, but also to the public. We're looking to place them at a place that outside of PD that will allow the public as well as staff to plug in those electric vehicles. We're also asking for education and training for a mechanic to work on the vehicles that we're getting on top of the 5 that we recently purchased. We're looking at, this is an annual grant, so we're looking at next year increasing our fleet as well. And so we're asking for authorization to submit an application for the purchase of 7 level 2 chargers to promote clean air alternative fuel technology. 3 will be placed in the back for staff, 2 out front, and I believe 2 at Public Works, or one at Public Works, so that we'll have them available for staff to use as well.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public comment at this time. Any members of the public like to come forward on this item, please step forward, state your name. Do you have anybody?
Just to comment on this, Gabe Santos, City of Atwater. I think it's great that we're moving forward with this. A lot of cities are already doing this, and it does open additional avenues down the road for additional grant funding, just to support what you currently have. So I think it's great, and thank you for moving forward with this.
Thank you.
I think one thing to identify too is this is not a cost associated to the city. This is reimbursable, and should we receive the award, we'll be coming back to council to allocate the revenue and the expense.
Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Bring it back to the council for a question or direction. Raymond.
I think that was from last time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Viera?
I didn't push my button.
Yeah.
I'll be good this time.
I'd like to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation and adopt resolution number 3116-19.
I'll second.
Raymond, you have a question?
I do. It just came to me. I'll still be nice. The question I'd have is, we have to supply the electricity to the charging stations, right? How is that going to be funded? Is that funded through the grant as well, or do we eat that cost? Do we charge if someone comes from the public? I mean, trying to be easy.
So while she's answered, can you answer that?
Janelle can probably answer.
So they're solar powered as well. They have a solar power option as well. So that's also part of the program as well.
So the question was, who's paying to move the electricity out to the stations? The trenching and the
There's a
underground?
solar component, so that will come into play with the charging.
That's a vague answer because I don't know that solar will recharge a car.
Maybe I can help with that. As far as the installation goes, the grant program has maximum amounts depending on the level of charging stations. We're looking at level 2 charging stations. These are two 240 volt, 40 to 50 amp charging stations. Installation is included in the grant program. So depending on location, Burns' guys can do part of the work, and then we'll need an electrician. We do have the solar panels already on the roof, or here at this complex, and it would probably be wise for us to tap into that somehow.
So does the charger, this charger itself doesn't have a solar panel attached to it?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes, it does.
No, it has
Yes.
it.
So that's
the
an
version
additional
we're-
cost.
That's the version that we're applying for. Is the version that we're applying for has the solar to charge the actual charge-up station. Is that the
Okay.
question that you're asking?
Sure.
No?
Okay, so to clarify things, this is a application for a grant. We're
There
not
is
out
no-
any money, there's no matching funds for this?
No.
And then the next question is, why 3 and back for staff? And I already know the answer to the question, but can you please elaborate what we've done that we need 3 for staff in the back?
Well, as I mentioned, we recently purchased 5 electric plug-in vehicles for,
With a grant?
with the grant, reimbursed 20% or 20,000 per vehicle, up to 100,000.
So we currently have electric cars.
We have, I drive one, chief's driving one, code enforcement, detective, and then our public works director as
So we're-
well, so that's why.
So my
we're-
point is, we're already moving into the hybrid electric area, so it makes sense we have these charging stations instead of electrical cords all over the back of the police station.
We're all fighting over them.
Yeah.
Um,
We truly are.
So I also have a concern though, I agree with Raymond, that it's gonna be common sense, you're gonna have to bring power to it, so you can't just rely on solar, so with this grant, there may be a potential, cost associated with this,
Right.
should have been in here. We should have covered that, we didn't, there may be enough money in facilities, Public Works Director Haddix, to cover that. Okay,
We'll bring the funding source back should we receive the award.
that'd be great. Council?
I think Councilwoman Vieira made a.
Yeah, she made a second, and
Yes.
She made the motion, I made the second.
Motion by Vieira, second by Ambrose.
Raymond?
No.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Kale?
yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Reports from mayor and city manager, verbal update regarding Take Back Our Neighborhood project held last Saturday, October 12th in the Swaps, Kelso area. Can we pull up the PowerPoint? We have some overhead pictures for that. I just want to start out with saying, great event, great, what do you call it, Councilman Raymond, buy-in of the community over there? Great turnout?
Yeah, I think so. It was good to actually, that's one of the things we were concerned about, but it was good to actually have people, from the area come out and help us and get involved. So I think that was a great job.
So are these being fed on the camera to home also?
Yes.
They can see this? So this is the before pictures that you guys are seeing now. We had, I'll let the city manager tell you who was out there, kind of go over it a little bit.
We had Bellevue School, we had a lot of students from Bellevue School, they had a good turnout. We had,
Who came from Bellevue School, the principals, vice principal?
I don't have their names.
Yeah, we had several staff members, the vice principal.
Teachers. I mean,
Teachers, students.
We had a great turnout from Bellevue School. We had Love Atwater. We had police department out there. We had fire department out there. We had public works. We had full council. We had myself, Janelle, Mark, Vernus. We had staff out there, and these are volunteering their time.
So we also had a lot of
Swag.
the community members out there,
Swag
swag
came
was
out
out
as
there.
well.
And then we had people that lived out there sweeping the streets, the gutter, and picking up trash and hauling debris, and really proud that their city was there to help them. As you see these pictures here, we corrected those broken sidewalks. Public Works had gone out and done the flat work previous to the October 12th, last Saturday. You see some of those cans there don't look so attractive, the solid waste cans from Allied Waste.
Republic came out and replaced them.
They replaced some of those. Those couches made it into dumpsters. So here's some pictures coming up of what actually was repaired out there, Janelle, right?
Yes.
So here's our guys actually, boots on the ground, making the repairs in the neighborhood. So this was also an opportunity we have a lot of new employees in the Public Works Department. So it was a hands-on learning experience that I think Vernus can touch on real quick. The benefit for the employees and the camaraderie that was going on out there. So you want to say something on that, Mr. Haddix?
I think it was a great opportunity for us to be able to share some of the collective knowledge we have within Public Works. I think we have a lot of staff that.
His microphone's not working. So he was talking about. Go ahead.
So we had a perfect opportunity to share with members of our crew that did not have the expertise in cement work. We had an opportunity to do a little bit of asphalt work. We had some sidewalks to grind. We had some lifting to do. We had driveways to replace.
Thank you. That was, yeah,
We
that's
had a
pretty good.
Yeah.
So of the day of the event, the city manager coordinated with our fire department, our police department, our public works, the city council, building official, code enforcement, SWAG, a community group, the Bellevue School, vice principals, admin staff over there, and some of the kids. We had Love Atwater participating. We had the police chief and public works director barbecuing for the community and the members that were helping in the volunteer cleanup. It was a huge success. We had the mayor of Merced and one of the council members, Mayor Mike Murphy, came over and participated, and Matt Serrato came over. He's a council member over there, and observed what's going on. They're going to do a cleanup similar to ours in Merced, November 2nd, I believe, over in the Loughborough area. So it's this is a collaboration between the two communities and all of our residents, and it was a great success. I mean, the neighborhood and the members of the public that were out there that live in that neighborhood every day, their overwhelming comment was, in over 20-some years, they've never seen the city really care about what's going on out there. So it was a really big deal. It's not over. We didn't do a one-day cleanup and check that box and never come back again. Code enforcement would be out there. There's the major sidewalk repairs we did there, and that was actually up about 18 inches. The public works guys worked tirelessly along with CAL FIRE. They went to, you want to talk about what CAL FIRE did with the building inspections and some other stuff you guys did while you were out there? Kind of a two birds, one stone philosophy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. So while we were there and then the public was out, the apartment inspections, we just kind of went to the owners and tenants and talked to them about the requirements, what is required of them, and knocked out a lot of those apartment inspections. Ultimately worked with them, explained it hands-on, and helped them clean it up.
Yeah, I saw the weed eaters coming out when the residents and the landlords didn't understand what was going on. They started taking down the what do you guys call it, fuel? The weeds up next to the apartments.
Light flashy fuels, the ladder fuels, it's going to be able to, if it did catch fire, could burn into the building. So since we had so many occupants out, it was a good time to, do public education and talk to them about it.
Yeah, so there's a few pictures, thank you, Chief. There's a few pictures of just a small sampling of who was out there. It was an overall great day. I'd like to get comments from the rest of the council. Vieira?
Yeah, I was really surprised at the reception that we received from the community. It was really fantastic. They were very friendly, happy to see us. We had a lady make hot cocoa. We had another gentleman cleaning his front yard. We all got a big piece of sugar cane. They were just excited, and as our Public Works Department, the Fire Department, as Atwater stepped in and started working, they just all started kind of coming out of their house and cleaning. So it was really, we've said it 100 times, positivity breeds positivity. They were so thankful, and I was so shocked to see how many aspects of this neighborhood we had turned a blind eye to the sidewalks, to the mailboxes, to the garbage bins, to the weeds. And then with that, to see the landowners, the way that they have really turned an eye and not maintained their property. So it just felt really bad to go over there and see that the people that live in that community have really been neglected in every aspect, starting with the homes themselves, with the units themselves. So I think with Atwater going forward, and we made a great gesture out there, but I really want to see our city hold those landowners, apartment owners, property owners accountable to provide their tenants with a clean, safe place to live. So as an adult, you can make a decision if you want to live somewhere messy, but the kids in that neighborhood, they have no choice. And there's one thing maybe to have a little bit of mess in your yard, but to have a building that's not suitable, broken windows, debris laying around, it's just not a place that I think Atwater wants to represent to the kids in our community. but it was just overwhelming. Just walking around the streets, and we walked all over, it was very joyful, and everybody was happy. It was such a good, there was a really good feeling when I left that day. So I think we did a great thing. I just want the community and the properties to understand that moving forward, that cleanup goes back to those property owners, and I hope that Atwater, with our police department, our code enforcement, our public works, holds those property owners accountable to maintain those properties. We went in and did a one-time cleanup. We don't do free property management in the city of Atwater. That's not why we're here. We gave a helping hand. Now come back and take care of the gift that we gave you and give a clean, safe place for those tenants to live. So I hope one good gesture leads to another.
Raymond?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had there was how much Councilwoman Vieira loves her district, and for you stepping forward with your leadership trying to get this done. I think the two of you coming together to show this part of our community how much we actually do love and care about them was huge, and I believe they felt it. So much so that one guy wanted to go get some amber lights for his truck so we could start cleaning up wherever he was at. So I think the staff did a great job, top to bottom. Thank you guys for everything.
Cale?
Well, I think this is a great sign of positive progress. It was awesome to see everybody working together. I mean, even the council had gloves on. I know I'm not gonna mess my hands up. And but it was great to see everybody working together. And it was humbling and uplifting, and like Councilwoman Vieira said, it's up to the owners now to make sure that we keep that up, and it's up to us to figure out where we want to go to next.
Ambrose?
Most of those pictures really didn't show or justify how hard everyone was working that day. You know, to the fire crews, to public works, everyone else here that volunteered. The kids alone from Bellevue, that really surprised me. At first I didn't notice where they were from. I just thought they were kids from the neighborhood, and when they all got together and they were all wearing their Bellevue shirts and then had the staff there, you know, to me that shows a good sign that those kids are going to take something very important away from there. They're going to know that they're not forgotten. The city is stepping in to help out, and we took that first step, so hopefully they'll continue on over there.
I agree, and I think to echo what Councilman Ambrose said, that the word "we" is what made it happen. And thank you, Councilman Raymond, for the compliments. But I think we, everybody in the room here today, pulled together. There was no single driving force. I got a little upset at some stuff I saw and shared it with my other council members, and they too got upset. And I think I just kind of shed some light on it. But Raymond, Vieira, Cale, and Ambrose, they all felt the same and seen the same thing I saw, and they helped put it into motion and executed it. So this council needs to be recognized for not sitting back saying it's not my problem, let somebody else take care of it. You guys stepped up, rolled your sleeves up, and got out there and made it happen. And I'm really pleased. I was out there every day during this entire process, and it's still not done. But the teamwork between Public Works and Fire and Building Division, Code Enforcement, and Police Station, and Council, and residents, that I would go out there and talk to these people, and now, you know, you see more of them, and they put a lot more trash. We left a couple of bins behind. One of the property owners, I think we were leaving, Raymond and I were driving out, and there's a guy unloading bark on a whole apartment complex. Yeah. So they're investing in their community. That's what we were trying to do, is, we just want to facilitate and let you know that you haven't been forgotten. And that's not the only area in the town that we're going to do this. We're going to try to reach out other parts of town as we have the resources for that. This was our first one. I think maybe springtime we're going to try to focus on another area. I think the council is going to work on where that exactly is going to be. But we keep doing our job for the people of Atwater, it'll come back tenfold with positive, good energy for everybody, and it's a great community to live in, and that turned out excellent. So my hat's off to all you on the council. Thank you very much. So that's the update on that one. Let's see if we had any other questions or comments. Next item, discussion and possible action regarding and adopt a city entrance program. Mayor Creighton and Member Kale. The other day I was driving into the city of Atwater, and you can only, and the reason I'm keeping this between me and Kale right now and bringing it to the council because we can't violate the Brown Act. So had an idea, I had to pick somebody to share it with. So I got all excited. I'm driving into town, and the entrance coming in from Merced, not the Ferrari Ranch, the next one in, Atwater Boulevard, there had to be somebody with a truck with a bunch of papers, but it unloaded. The whole off-ramp was covered in papers. And I just got a call from a friend of mine that said, hey, why don't you guys clean up the monument at Atwater Boulevard and Winton Way? And, you get all these residents asking for things to be done. And it's like, well, we want to do something. The Lions Club, the Rotary, Kiwanis, the Marine Corps, the American Legion, the VFW, everybody wants to help. So as I'm looking at it, my urge was to pull over and start picking them up, but I was slowing cars down. I was like, okay, I can't pick all this up, but we should adopt an entrance. Clean up the entrance. And I think the gentleman was here earlier in the wheelchair said, we should clean up our entrances. So the timing's perfect that he said that. And I called John, pulled around the corner, stopped at Circle K looking at it, and I was like, I gotta share this idea. So halfway through the conversation with Councilmember Kale, he's like, heck yeah. So why don't you take it over from here?
Well, it's interesting because about a week before this, my pastor from my church said, how can we help the city? We want to be able to help the city, and I told him Love Inc., Love Atwater, would be a great place to start. And he's like, okay. And then after the mayor gave me this thing, I was there yesterday, and I was like, I gotta tell the pastor, this is a great thing. If we could get, and I was looking at, there's really kind of like 5 entrances into Atwater, if you count Winton Way and Schaefer, and then back here and by the freeway. So if we could get 5 groups or 10 groups, and half the year they take care of one end and the other half another takes care of, it would be a phenomenal thing and a great show. And if they do it and they let me know, I'll be out there helping them clean too.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly, and I don't want to forget the tree partners too, because city manager reminded me of that. But there's a lot of groups out there, religious, community, all aspects want to do something. So what do you guys think, council? Do we pursue this? What are your thoughts? Councilwoman Vieira.
So right there where you go down Winton Way, before you go over the railroad tracks, is that the Kiwanis that put that there?
The Centennial? The
Yes.
cement brick thing?
Yes.
I don't know who put it there. Do you know who put that there?
The Lions Club. My mom's complained to me every single day for 10 years about that. She does. She was going to call you. Did she call you? She goes, I'm going to call your city manager. So, good grief, let's make mom happy. I think it's great. It's a first impression. You come in, and at one time, someone spent a lot of time and effort and love and money to put that together, and over time, it's just full of weeds, and it looks really cruddy.
So we're talking about the entrances coming in, probably the exits going out are a little bit of Caltrans issue, like
That
that's
kind of is
county.
an interest, because you're coming in
Yeah.
off the highway there, and it says Atwater, and it's got a sign.
We want
and
entrances. We're
I'll give
focused
my
on-
mom your number.
Yes.
Because,
No, but you're right, that is an entrance. We'll consider that, we'll call that
Helen,
entrance.
you know, huh? Yeah.
I think Gary Fragos called me enough on that one. I'm tired of Gary
Well, then
calling.
we
So
should-
I'm
that's
gonna get
two
Gary to
people.
volunteer to do that.
Okay, she'll go help.
Raymond, any comments?
No.
Councilmember Ambrose.
So are you just talking about the what is it, 4 entrances we have right off the freeway?
So really what I'm talking about is an idea. I don't have anything further than an idea. I think that we have to resolve, after thinking about it and sharing it with Kale and trying to get it on the council agenda, we need to find out the legal logistics, whether we could be in those property right-of-ways, what the legal logistics are for our volunteers if we did get that to happen. What exactly are the locations? That's important. So it's really just a conceptual idea, but I want to get your guys' input because I don't think we need direction. We could probably give staff maybe some parameters. I don't know what it's going to take. It's a concept.
I think first thing we need to do is find out, I'm sorry, I know you pushed your button. Find out what's legal. But anytime someone who lives in this community wants to step up and volunteer
Yes.
their time, this is their community as much as it is ours. We have no right to say, forget it.
That's a fact.
So, yeah, no,
Raymond?
you're not allowed to pull weeds.
Well, I know, I said no before I actually thought about it, but one thing you have to think about too is a lot of the problems we see coming in, going out, are people's personal property. And so there is a property rights issue there that comes into play.
I think we're not looking at, that's a great question. I never assumed the property part. I was thinking the Caltrans and city area, those easements.
Are you talking about like dump mattresses? What do you
No, I think he's talking about, like, say I owned a piece of property somewhere along the corridor.
Is that what you're talking about?
And,
I don't know, I'm so confused now, Mayor.
so we're talking about strictly Caltrans or city property.
Is it, hold on, is it gonna cost us any money?
It potentially could. Because somebody's got to pick up the bags of trash after they pick them up. You know, it's not free. You have to have,
But if it's an adopt an entrance, we wouldn't have to pick it up.
I don't know why not? Who's going to pick it up?
Whoever
The
adopted
adopter.
the entrance?
They usually put it in bags and then somebody comes by and picks it up.
Who's the somebody?
Well, we got to work out these details. So these are great questions.
Whoever wants to adopt it has to pick up their
I
own
don't
trash.
know how adopt a freeway goes, so we're trying to steal that idea.
Yeah.
So,
We'll get those answers, then we'll talk about it.
okay, so do you want staff to get those answers?
Is that gonna cost us money?
It's almost Christmas.
Okay, so, Ambry's Kale, you want to let staff roll with this and see what it would take?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, city manager, I think you kind of got we're going to leave it at that. Okay, last item, discussion and possible action regarding assigning an ad hoc committee for the Public Works Facility Improvement Project. The reason that's on the council agenda is 3 years ago when I got on the council, I've been wanting to clean up the Public Works yard with the chief's arrival and Mr. Haddock's and some other things, and the council's direction to surplus a lot of things. I know the council, I've spoken about this to all you guys. We want to see something happen, and we want to see it happen yesterday. There's some ideas that we need to talk about that would change the dynamics of how you come and go at Public Works, so that the Public Works Administration can field public complaints and public citizens directly, instead of having to, you can't get into Public Works right now, unless you know the gate code, you're not getting in, you're not talking to anybody. So they gotta come down here to City Hall, holler at the girls in the window, which give them a number to call somebody at Public Works. They drive out there, and they can't get in the fence, because there's a gate. So we need to consider, I'd like to do an ad hoc committee with somebody to see what it would take to realign the fence and realign a portion of the driveway so that the public would have normal access, like the city of Merced, city of Livingston, city of Fresno, Clovis, Madera, Chowchilla. So, also along with that, we put in the budget the last 3 years to paint the building, fix the rain gutters, and clean up the parking lot. We haven't done that yet. And we're getting ready to finish up mid-year budget, and we still have the money to do this. It's time we take care of Public Works also, because we're not replacing that building. We need to maintain it. So, Councilman Raymond.
I just would make a motion that the mayor, the public works director, and the engineer.
Need one more
committee.
council member.
Okay, and Councilmember Kale.
Is that a second?
Yes, that's what I said, I second.
Oh, yeah. And then I'll open this up to the public right now for comment. So members of the public would like to come forward and speak on this item, please step forward. Gabe, you're dying to do something.
I think Gabe should be on the committee.
I was gonna,
Just Gabe Santos, a couple things with Public Works. It's kind of a double-edged sword when you start opening up because the general safety of the Public Works staff. So when you look at that main entrance, there's been a lot of significant events that have occurred nationwide. So you want to make sure that there's still that level of security. I definitely agree that they need to have access, but direct access, I would definitely appreciate the opportunity to sit on that ad hoc committee.
Technically, ad hoc committee is only 2 members of the council.
Okay.
So we would consider all that. It's obvious consideration.
I'll step off if he
No, it's only 2 members of the council.
And
Mayor.
don't you have a,
Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to include a member of the public.
yes.
Legally, I don't think you can.
So legally, just quickly, ad hoc committees are solely 2 members of the council. Solely meaning just 2 members, no members of staff, no members of the public. However, that ad hoc could meet with members of the public, could meet with staff, could get staff to help, et cetera.
Okay.
I think, and the goal here is not to make this complicated. It's just a simple
That ship sailed,
painting
man.
and, huh?
That ship sailed.
Okay. So, we have a motion by Raymond.
Mayor Creighton and Councilmember Kale.
Second by,
Viera, but with the suggestion that we do include
No,
maybe a community member.
yes.
I think that's good.
not on the ad hoc committee. So
I know not on the, I know they can't be on your team, but they could still be cheerleaders.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah, reach out. I like that.
Good?
Oh,
Okay,
that must have been an accident.
call for the question.
Okay, motion by Raymond, second by Viera, right?
Correct.
Okay. Raymond,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Creighton,
Yes.
motion passes.
See, Danny looking at
Make,
his
make
shoes like a
sure
little kid.
I get your number.
Comments from the public?
No eye contact.
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and or placed on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. First, we have John Slate, Fire Captain. I'm sorry, Battalion Chief.
I got demoted right before I get to talk. Mr. Mayor,
I'm so
council
sorry.
members.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all firefighter.
Closing polls on
So
memory of Paul. Go ahead.
I'd like to talk about another good thing that the city's going to engage in this year. The chief of police and myself have been talking, and we're going to go do our first annual fire and police holiday toy drive. So I was going to go over a couple dates. I do not have tickets for you tonight, but I will get them to council members and mayor sometime this week. So some of the first dates, this is exciting stuff, more positive progress for the city. First annual toy drive, we're going to start taking applications from October 21st through December 6th at 760 East Bellevue, the community center. And then we're also going to do a tri-tip dinner on December 7th. The fire department's going to be cooking those meals. It's going to be $45 a ticket, and that's going to include a tri-tip, dinner rolls, salad, and beans, enough to feed the whole family. So
What
it's going to
date
be really
again
good.
on that tri-tip?
What's that?
The date on the tri-tip dinner?
Tri-tip's going to be December 7th.
Pearl
And
Harbor
more
Day.
information you can always get on the Atwater City website, social media. It's going to be all over it. We're going to actually be doing a press release October 17th here. Press release is going to be here at City Hall. I want to say it was at 1 o'clock, and we'll give more details then. And we're also planning an event on December 6th during the Christmas parade. So we're going to try to collect more toys at that event and coordinate that with the Chamber of Commerce. And we've got another event on November 1st that's still in conceptual stages, but we're going to be working on getting some more gifts collected then. And then, as always, we're going to shoot for December 24th, Christmas Eve, to actually get all those toys distributed to the families.
So when you distribute them, it's like with Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we're still trying to figure out all of that. We're going to have that, those details ironed out before our press release, of course, which
Great.
is going to be Thursday the 17th. But generally, we're going to do big wrapping parties here at the city. City staff's going to wrap everything, so it's going to be a little bit more special.
Can the community clubs come in and wrap too?
Yep, we're going to be reaching out to school districts, community clubs, pretty much everybody to help us. The city is going to be the lead, but that's what's so special about this. We're teaming up together. City's going to be the ones leading this project, getting the names, getting this out to the citizens. So it's going to be a good Christmas.
And we have a website.
You have a website, wow.
Yes, we have a website. It's atwatertoydrive.com. You'll be able to register at atwatertoydrive.com.
We'll be able to text that out like on some kind of
Yes,
hypertext.
No, you can download the application and turn it in.
Turn it in. Yeah, it's kind of, it's exciting. We're looking at some other toy drives from other areas, law enforcement, fire related. We're trying to coordinate something special for the Bloss game on November 1st.
That's coming up.
Versus Buhack Colony. We want to do something kind of special for the drive on that night.
That'd be great because your entire city council might be there. You guys got the invitation, right? From Braga, Mr. Braga from the high school?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We'll be flipping the coin and our city council will be there.
Yes.
So that'd be very cool.
It's going to be really, really cool. The Police Officers Union is involved in this also. They're really jazzed up about getting this going, and we invite everybody to come play with us.
So is this exclusive just to Atwater PD and fire, or like Public Works, admin, everybody jumps in?
Pretty much all city staff's going to be involved in this one. We've had several meetings. This is going to be a big thing.
And the Marine
This
Corps
is-
if they want to?
Oh, they're invited. Oh, the more help, the better.
More the merrier.
And,
Yep, the Chamber of Commerce, I know that they're going to be helping, especially on the December 6th, involved.
and
Wow.
I was gonna ask, if you get a letter out saying that we're doing this, you give it to me, I'll present it to the Merced Elks Lodge, and I'm sure they'll donate a good chunk of money to you.
Absolutely. I have a copy of it here. It's not in
Sweet.
color, so I'll
Perfect.
make sure I get you a nice color copy. And it's also on the city's Facebook page right now.
Absolutely.
A little more information about the toy drive.
Great job, guys.
No, but we're all excited. I know police department, fire department, super excited. This is going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be very well worth it. And it's all for the children.
We have fun.
That's the key thing, is having fun and keeping a positive attitude.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing one. Kyle?
Good evening. Kyle Arroyo with Public Services. I'm here today to remind everyone about the annual city cleanup. To follow up after last week's neighborhood cleanup. The cleanup will be at Buhack Colony High School. It's in the parking lot on Avenue 2. Starts at 7 a.m. We please ask that folks do not park in the parking lot.
What was the date again?
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
What is that, the 19th?
Yes, sorry. So we do ask people not to park in the parking lot. So our vendors need to go in there. We'll have the trailer for tires, mattresses. We'll have the metal appliances. We'll have electronics. We'll have our roll-offs for green waste, large limbs, small trees that folks need to dispose of that don't fit in their containers. And then we'll have our trucks out there for large pieces of trash that don't normally fit in the cans. We don't take any hazardous waste, no paints, no chemicals, no pool chemicals, no pesticides, anything like that. Those need to go to the county's hazardous waste facility at the landfill. So again, it's Saturday at
7 a.m. till?
7 a.m. to noon.
7 a.m.
Are the hours that we'll be there.
Okay, we can blast that out there. Okay. And then you guys have the parking lot set up so that people don't, because you're running the program, Ally's running the program.
Yes. We're out there. We'll have our staff out there to direct people as they come in. We've had some great success the last couple of times we've been out there. People line up down Avenue 2 and around the corner.
And anybody can go to this, or just?
Anyone in the city who's a customer of the city, has a water bill.
They need to provide a utility bill and a driver's license?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, prove they're a city resident who pays for trash service. They're allowed to use the service. And
Okay.
so the cleanup that you folks did last weekend was great because the folks living in apartments don't have those bills. They don't have the access to that. So allowing them the ability to use our bins to throw those large pieces away was very helpful for them.
Excellent.
Right.
And I want to thank Republic for bringing those, what are they,
The
roll-offs?
the large roll-offs.
And
Mhm.
Kyle confirmed that they were picked up today.
They were. I drove
Sounds
by
like they're-
before I came.
So
in
they
here.
added a little bit stuff to the side. Did you guys
There-
take care of that stuff
There
too?
were a couple of pieces that didn't make it in. We talked, and possibly your staff are going to pick those up and bring them out to the cleanup next on Saturday.
So Public Works on top of that?
So there was just, I think there was a couch and looked like an entertainment center that was
A
still
couple of
out there.
mattresses, yeah, I was out there just for a meeting.
that didn't make it into the bin.
And then
before we
also,
took off.
on that, the residents did, after we left
Mhm.
Sunday, they filled up all the dumpsters in all the apartments.
Right.
Are we gonna make a trash run on those just to get back to zero, or what are
That'd
we
be a
doing?
normal trash run. I don't know if we have.
Some of those are overflowing already.
Right.
Because we encouraged so much that we only had the 2 bins. So maybe you guys can work that out, staff.
We'll have to look to see what everyone has on a different trash day, based on their normal service. We just don't come every day, so we can check to see what's out there, wait and see if it's in. We did replace 12 or 13 of the trash bins that are out there in the area that we were asked to replace, so almost half of what we were asked to swap out has been done. We're taking those back to get those painted. As soon as those are ready, we'll get those
I
back
did
out.
see you increase the size on a few of them too.
No, some of those have 6-yard bins. They're larger apartments with more service, and so they do have the large 6-yard bins. So I think
Okay.
3 of those were delivered out there.
Okay.
And so we have 1.5-yard bins, 3-yard bins, and 6-yard bins out there that we were replacing.
I think one of the things that Kyle was saying too is if we notice that there's graffiti on these bins, to notify Republic, and that it's their responsibility to paint it, so that way it'll be colored that will match the dumpsters.
The
and
blue
not
rather than
our
continually
regular.
paying over the white, and so it'll prevent us from having to swap those out just because they're turned white. We can get out
What's the
there.
time frame on Republic?
We can use out there about 48 hours. And then I've also suggested that we supply your graffiti team with some of the blue paint that we use. They can carry with them, so if there's a small patch that they can just easily fix, and they can do that. All right, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich Miller, 334 Silver Drive. Want to start off by apologizing for missing the last city council meeting. It was my 42nd birthday, so I ended up spending time with my family and didn't have anybody here, but I did go back and watch it, and just wanted to bring up 2 things I'd like to ask the council to consider looking at 2020. First off is a follow-up process whenever we are going through an item. For example, when we were talking about the water, or when we were talking about number 9, it seems like people from the public don't get a second chance to say anything once information is brought out. And I think it'd be good to have a follow-up. I understand you don't want to get into a back and forth. I definitely understand that. But it seems like there is a back and forth if you're a presenter or you're an employee of the city. If you're not, if you're a citizen, you don't get that follow-up chance. Like she had wanted a follow-up, hopefully afterwards on the water. I would have loved to follow up on number 9. And here's the second thing I'd like for you to consider is if you put that on the ballot in March and November, I believe it's going to pass because we love our firefighters and we love our police officers. We love our public safety. But here's what I'd like for you to consider is if you're going to put it on there, then don't put a sunset, I guess is what you call it, right? Don't put a sunset on it because, as the chief of police said, if you take that away, down the road, you're going to cripple the police department. So you might as well make it either a long-term thing or pump the brakes and let's figure out a long-term solution. Councilmember Brian Raymond represents my district, and I appreciate what you did tonight and what you said, because you're right. We can get this thing passed because we support our police officers and our firefighters. They should not go without at all. They need our 100% support. But if we want the city councils in the future to be successful, then we need to set it up now so that this doesn't come up after, in another 8 years. If that makes sense what I'm saying, we need to figure out a long-term solution, not just a 3-year, 8-year, 10-year solution, so that these guys have all the funding that they need on a regular basis. So try to consider that, if you would, that it's going to pass. It's going to pass because people love their firefighters and their police officers here in Atwater, I believe. But we need to look even further down the road. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time?
Mary Ann Amrant, Atwater. I appreciate what he just said, because it would be nice to get some kind of feedback. What I would really love is a plan in place so you guys can kind of keep the citizens aware of what. I understand that we're waiting for litigation and so forth, or to the money to be given you guys, but it would be nice for us to be made part of the loop, so then we're not so grabbing for answers or struggling with it. Also, my quick question, property when you're getting on the freeway there at Chevron gas station, and it would be to the right of us, so we're on 99 going north, and it's between Atwater Boulevard, where we have kind of a major campgrounds taking place right now. It's really not nice to look at, and I appreciate what you guys did. I mean, that was awesome, and it is a sense of community. And I understand that there are people that are currently living there, but is there any kind of plan in place as to kind of cleaning it up? Because it's crazy to me how it actually burnt around all of their encampments, but didn't affect them. It's like that field needs to be disced up. I mean, it's kind of really not nice. So I will help volunteer to help clean it up once you.
No, you're not.
No, I'm all about that. No, I'm not going to be like, asking you guys to do something that I wouldn't do myself, but it looks bad. Like, I mean, I love our little city, but when you're driving out of it and you look to the right, it's like, wow. And that they're encroached in every little goodie. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are engaging the property owner on a code enforcement realm. That takes time. Unfortunately, it is private property, and the property owner is responsible for the upkeep and keeping his private property rights valid, because without that, law enforcement is very, very limited in what they can do with voice of decision with homeless people. So we are engaging the property owners, and I hope to get some rectification here soon.
Okay, any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. City council comments. Gail.
Well, I want to say great job in taking back the neighborhood around Determined and Schwab's. And then I want to make sure everybody understands that I believe this council is always looking ahead 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line. And like Pastor Miller said, I mean, previous councils put a sunrise on there. And I agree that we shouldn't have that. It should be, if you're going to accept that tax, then live with it. And like you said, we got to support these guys. And I love the Christmas toy drive. That is just another awesome reason to live in one of the greatest cities in the Central Valley. It truly is. And I was playing at a golf tournament with a couple other city officials, and I was like, I'm sorry that you have to live in a really crappy city. I don't. And I explained what we were doing, and they were just flabbergasted. So thank you all for all your hard work that you guys have done. Thank the council members for all their hard work that they've done. And don't forget to sign Chief's, I have to say this real slow, Chief's sheet in the back of the room before you leave. Thanks.
Ambrose?
again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out this past Saturday for the Take Our Neighborhood Back. Again, it was a wonderful event. Toy drive, can't wait to help out with that as much as I can. Also, I was talking with one of the school admins over at Merced City Schools where I work at, and the conversation came back to about Atwater, and about how this individual has been noticing all the positive changes from the meetings to what's actually happening in the city. So I just wanted to bring that back to the rest of the council as well as the residents here tonight, that other cities are paying attention to what's being done here, not just by what we're doing here, but what you guys are doing out there. One last thing, I also want to wish a happy birthday to a good friend, Stacy Lill. Some of you guys might know her. She volunteers her time for the 4th of July parade. Pretty sure today's her 21st birthday, but yeah, happy birthday, Stacy.
Raymond, or Viera.
How come you made me go first?
I didn't.
Okay,
I'm in trouble.
I already talked enough about the cleanup. It was really fantastic. I want to tag off a little bit of what Danny just said. I went to it's called an Oktoberfest Friday night, hosted by the Merced County Association of Realtors. And I had several realtors come up to me and say, hey, good job, Atwater. Wow, what are you're doing this, you're doing that. So people are noticing the difference. And that's exciting. So, that's a good thing. I noticed that we are seeing some cleanup from our new lawn care service through the city of Atwater, and I've got a couple kudos for that too. I'm sorry, Brian.
Oh, you stole his thunder.
Okay, never mind.
5 years, Cindy.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Councilman Raymond?
Backwards.
Oh,
Wait
you
a
still
minute.
going, Cindy?
Okay, so myself and several other members did attend the funeral services last week for Paul, and I know his mom was very specific how to pronounce his name, Rotondario. She said it like 5 times, I know. Rotondaro. Okay. CAL FIRE put on just a top-notch service for this firefighter who lost his life. And you guys did a fantastic job. I was so amazed at the strength of his family, of how his wife could get up and even speak in public. I was just amazed by that. I would have been curled up in fetal position somewhere. So thoughts and prayers to the family. It's such a tough loss. I did want to say, and I know, we sat there by you, it says CAL FIRE Local 2881 did the pipes and drums. They did a rendition of Amazing Grace, my favorite song. It was my grandmother's favorite song. It absolutely brought tears to my eyes. It was the most beautiful piece of music I think I've ever heard in my life. It was absolutely beautiful for anyone else who was there, and I'm sure they felt the same way. But I know that, like I said, several people from the city went, and you guys did a really beautiful service there for him. And so my thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends in the time of loss. I know that he did give a big sacrifice, so that's it.
Councilman Raymond, thank you.
Cindy stole everything I had to say. But after fighting for 5 years to privatize landscape districts, it's been done, and you can see the benefits already. It's not perfect, but it looks a whole lot better. So thank you guys for voting to support that. It's been a long time coming, and I think it's going in the right direction. And I apologize for showing up late. My son had an orientation meeting at school for the GATE program, and I had to be there with him. So
Awesome. I'll keep it short and sweet. Also, my condolences to Paul's family. He'll be greatly missed. We have something special for him tonight, so I'll defer back to Councilmember Raymond for the closing of tonight's meeting.
So the councilwoman and the mayor kind of touched on it, but on October 2nd, the CAL FIRE family suffered a tremendous loss while Fire Captain Paul Rotondaro was on duty. He was involved in an accident that unfortunately had him pay the ultimate sacrifice. And I just, want to ask everybody right now to keep, the family in their prayers, especially his wife Jennifer, daughter Kirsten, son Wyatt. The kids are still little, and it's a tremendous loss, and they need all the love and support we can give them. But before we adjourn, I'd like to stand, if we could, up here on the council and just offer a moment of silence. Thank you. And I'd like to adjourn the meeting in the honor and memory of CAL Fire Captain Paul Vincent Rotondaro.
Meeting adjourned.